Yes, yes, y'all. Another Saturday night. Therefore, it's another Saturday night shoot the breeze. I want to thank everyone who participated last week. Last week Saturday was a good discussion. We were shorthanded in many respects, but we still had a positive show. We got through all of our prompts. I mean, real good discussion. The chat was sensational. Make sure you guys check out the replay if you haven't, if you weren't there for the actual live stream. Thanks to you guys who would have watched the show after it posted, may have posted a comment. I don't remember if anyone posted a comment this week, but make sure you guys check it out if you haven't already. And thanks to those of you who attended last week. I tend to look at Shoot the Breeze as a meeting. And, these topics are discussion points during our meeting. And I might even try to tailor Shoot the Breeze to kind of be more meeting-like in that respect. But, if you can't make it, there's always the playback. And as I mentioned last week, I mentioned it last week that clearly YouTube is messing with the algorithms against people who stream the kind of content that we do here. Maybe we should come up with an email list. And I thought about it more during the week, and I've devised a plan to create an email list, but it's going to require your help. I need you guys to, even though you might be here Saturday, join the email list. And then you yourselves create email lists of people you think should be tuned in, or at least have the opportunity to know about these discussions that we have every Saturday night. I posted a community tab post today, and I'll be posting more about it in the near future. But you guys try to get your own email list together. I think we need to start sharing information, creating lists, and getting the information out. Let's beat the algorithm, as I mentioned in my post earlier today. So with that said, make sure you join the Discord, because I'm going to set up the Discord soon so that you'll have a channel to drop your email. Once you drop your email, my MailChimp will send you the introductory email concerning all the goodies that's going to come with joining the email. You guys read the posts on YouTube to get an idea. Shout out to Daily Affirmations by Pauline, who says, good evening. One last piece of information before I get to the preview. You might notice that there are two streams tonight. I think it shows up as two streams on YouTube. One is a vertical stream that allows mobile users to watch the live stream, as well as the standard orientation for YouTube. So if you're on mobile, man, drop a mobile emoji for me. If you're on mobile, I'm just curious to see who's watching from the mobile stream. So drop a mobile emoji for me when you have a chance. All right. With that said, what are we discussing tonight? I think we have some cool conversations for you tonight. One conversation is, does one need to abandon purity when building a pan-nationalist movement? Interesting. We're talking about Guyana. Guyana has a lot of land and considered underpopulated. Should Black people move to Guyana and build it up? We're going to look at an old story that I guess resurfaced, at least it's here for Shoot the Breeze, about an athlete, a female athlete, or is she a man or a woman, or is it just discrimination against Black women, or is it just protecting women's sports? We're going to try to dissect that. We're going to look at the brutal honesty needed in assessing the reality of Nigeria as a hyper-tribalist, Berlinist state. I actually joined this with another prompt, looking at Nigerians begging to be had. The foundation of foundational Black Americans can still be found in Africa. If you think of it. Now, that's with some sarcasm. But that link is not working, so I'm just letting the person who posted it know. And lastly, this one is for Sister Raw. We're going to try to discuss if AI is actually taking over. All of that hopefully will be discussed in tonight's show. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says that she's on mobile. Okay, so are you looking at the vertical stream or the usual stream? I'm trying to figure out if it looks different to you. I can see what it looks like, but I'm trying to see. As a matter of fact, it does comments. Okay, now it does. So I'm trying to see if the experience is different for you on the mobile vertical stream. Anyway, with that said, let's start the show, man. We're gonna start the show officially, and on the other side, I will drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1, as well as welcome in any and all of my panelists. So do stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Goku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
You're muted.
Oh, thank you for that. I was there talking too. Like I said, make sure to tune into Brother Bakari. Make sure to tune into the Forecast Radio. Make sure you're tuned in to Consider Cheek, Realm in the Bush. And make sure you're tuned into Kofi the Black Critic. With that said, let me welcome in my panelists, one of which you heard say I'm muted. I'll be Oni this week. Oni, how are you?
I'm cool. I didn't realize that y'all had that daylight savings. So it's 4 a.m. now. But otherwise, I'm cool. It's peace.
Oh, man, 4 a.m. Thanks for coming through. Hope all is well on the continent. With that said, let's hear from Buana. Buana, how are you this week?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I hope you all brothers can hear me. I got my new AirPods. Shout out to Oni. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, brother. You know that's heavy. So shout out to you for being here, brother.
Yeah, we're hearing you loud and clear. You sounding good there. Thanks to all of you for being here. I guess let's just get right into it. Trigger said he can't hear. I guess that's when I was muted. I'm trying to understand this dual stream thing, but it's all good. Shooter Breeze topic number 1 says, is there truth to this? That one needs to abandon purity when building a pan-nationalist movement. I guess it's Pan-African nationalist movement. This takes us to Twitter, I believe. And you guys should be able to see my screen if you can. It says, this is from Dwayne Wong, by the way. It says, one of the reasons why pan-Mongolism hasn't developed into a particularly strong movement among the Mongol is the concept of ethnic purity, which promotes the, Khalifa as the true Mongols. Mongols in China are often rejected as half-breeds for being culturally and or biologically assimilated into China. This idea of culturally pure or biologically pure Africans has been an issue amongst us. Many prominent figures in the history of the Pan-African movement were mixed race, including Robert Campbell, W.E.B. Du Bois, Bob Marley, Jerry Rawlings, and others. Just out of curiosity, let me scroll down and see if there's comments. There's not much. One person here named Barron says that's why Pan-Africanism has been so successful at defending Africans from outsiders in Sudan, Mauritania, and Mali. It's interesting. Let me read that one more time. So Dwayne Wong says one of the reasons why pan-Mongolism hasn't developed into a particularly strong movement among the Mongol is the concept of ethnic purity, which promotes the Kalaki or something like that, Kalaki, as the true Mongols. Mongols in China are often rejected as half-breeds for being culturally and or biologically assimilated into China. This idea of culturally pure or biologically pure Africans has never been an issue amongst us. Many prominent figures in the history of the Pan-African movement were mixed race, including Robert Campbell, W.E.B. Du Bois, Bob Marley, Jerry Rawlings, and others. That's an interesting discussion to be had there. With that said, man, Oni, let me start with you. What are your thoughts? Is there truth to this, what I just read?
Well, I mean, this is one of the troubles when you're in America and you're surrounded by mixed people. You know what I mean? When you just kind of get blinded. You get orientated towards that. Like here in Africa, I'm not saying nobody has light skin. You know what I mean? But most people like mixtures are just few and far between. Mixtures are just few and far between. And that's like the difference. In America, a lot of times you're gonna see prominent people being mixed. Like prominent people in the quote unquote black space, being mixed people. And when you're being real, that throws you for a loop, when you're not expecting it. Like I remember one time I went to Harlem and we were supposed to get some lecture. That lady who wrote The New Jim Crow was showing up. And so before she spoke, Michelle Alexander, there was this other dude talking, and he was like, man, we black people got to do this. We black people got to do that. And he's from the Black Agenda Report, big paper, okay? Big paper. he was like one of the main editors or whatever. The name was Glenn Ford. Okay. But me and this dude was sitting down in the audience, like, why is this like, is this person black? Why are they telling us what we supposed to be doing? Like, you know, like we were confused. And if you look up Glenn Ford, you'll see. I mean, you know, he died or whatever, but you look him up, you'll say, wait, is this a black man or is this a white guy with long hair? You know what I mean? Like this is a white guy with long hair. But again, you in America, and it's like that ain't nothing. You know, it's like, man, we come in all shades and colors or something. You know, it's like it's so again, you know, when you like America, like we don't see it because again, I left, you know, but America's so messed up that yeah, the parent like the end goal changed, you know, like because like you go down this list. I mean, except for Jerry Rawlings, who you know we know was like a president in Ghana, but like you go down this list and you're like, are these are these people trying to get power, like real power, right? Are they trying to be, you know, might makes right type energy? You know, is Du Bois really like Du Bois sabotage the Liberia? You know what I'm saying? Bob Marley was just, you know, he sang some good music, but that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, one love pretty much, you know? So like, are these people seeking power or are they just, you know, trying to assimilate? Because that's what it comes back to when you're saying, hey man, is this Pan-African movement? It's like, look, these are assimilationists. Like you even have Du Bois was like the leader of like the integration movement. Like these are assimilationists. So it don't even make any sense that, you know, we already know this is not even coming from a perspective of Pan-African nationalism. You know, this is just, you know, no disrespect to Dwayne, obviously, but this is like socialism. This is, you know, just assimilationism. In another word, you know, just civil rights in the West. You know, this is not Pan-African nationalism. It's not building up your African nation. So it's just, you know, hand wave it away. It's like, I don't see what this would have to do with Garvey. Like, what does this have to do with Garvey? You know, that's what I was saying.
That's interesting. I think this kind of ties to that, well, not kind of. This ties to that conversation of who's African, who's black. In the chat, Trigger Happy says, what happens when you reject a country like Cape Verde? And let's say America builds a military base, or a country like Seychelles or something. Then we have the Caribbean as well. Earlier you said, let me see something there. Earlier he says, I don't know. The question is about building a Pan-African movement. So it's nationalist in character. Mixed people are not just in America. We have Cape Verde as a country, or many African islands as well. So that was really the comment he was making. Lastly, he says, now Garvey was pretty loose when he defined what a black person was. He was okay with the one drop rule. So I guess that's, you know, that's also within this conversation, who's an African. So just for clarity only, before I go to Buana, tell me, what is a black person or what is an African person?
Well, yeah, well, we know, I mean, that's what I'm saying, like that kind of like, we know what an African is, right? We know if you want to go through the genotype, you know, not just the phenotype, but the genotype, right? We know, like, for instance, for me personally, like I wrote inside of my book, you know, like, I mean, again, the science is a little bit iffy. We don't really know, but most people would conclude that, you know, we are the people who don't have Neanderthal genes. You know what I'm saying? We're the people who don't have Denisovan genes, you know, so we're just a pure human in that sense, right? Now, of course, that's not to say that there hasn't been any admixtures going forward. True. there's a good argument against, absolute purity, because especially what happened to the African diaspora. What happened to the African diaspora was that we were stolen from Africa, and we were, we were bred like cattle, or we were, attacked, and so on and so forth. But my point is, or the way I think is, moving forward. You know what I mean? Like moving forward. Like you see me, I come to Africa, find me a wife in Tanzania. You know what I mean? So it's like moving forward, like whatever might have happened in my past, moving forward, we start diluting. We start diluting because when you get into like if you're talking about genetics, right? You're talking about, you take half and half of ancestors, but you got to also remember that, the genome is a finite sequence, right? The genome's a finite sequence. So let's say there's 5 million parts to your genome. I don't know. Koku will tell you, right? But you divide it. Eventually, some of them gets out. It's finite. So eventually, you can, if you put that genome into a more pure environment, eventually it will replicate only the African genomes. So Africa is genetics. See what I'm saying? We all know genetics. Africa's genetics, right? And basically, one of the troubles that we have as a people is, one, we are, we a lot of us in the West, present company, included, I guess, does have, you shake our family tree, a mulatto might fall out. You know what I mean? Like we just being real. But and of course, if a mulatto falls out, something else might fall out, right? But my point is, right, one, the trouble is that we're staying in the West and we're breeding with each other, so that mulatto replaces himself, replicates, and of course the mulatto's ancestors. And then on top of that, the other issue that we have is that a lot of when we are the minority in a country, our genome starts to, we get some, I don't know what you call it, genetic flux or whatever, or some genetic migration, whatever you want to call it. Basically, because you're the minority, even if you're messing with each other, there's not enough of you, and you'll start breeding with the majority population. This is why I keep telling Black folk, if you're serious about the movement or whatever, go to Africa and breed. Because not breed, but you know what I mean. Go to Africa because long term, you're gonna face genetic annihilation being a minority, and you're being a minority, one, and two, having that mixture persist through your genetic, your genetic lineage. So again, as far as the question of, hey, what's an African? We know Africa's a series of genetics. The only question is, what are we actively doing about it? Right? Because absolutely, there are mixed people who, again, no fault of their own, right? But then the question becomes, well, we know you're predominantly, your predominant genetic makeup is African, and we know that you can eventually become the parent of pure Africans if you act according to how you could get genetic descendants of being pure Africans, and the main way is to be surrounded, to put your genetic lineage as a minority in a majority African situation. That's what I'm saying.
I appreciate that, Oni. Shout out to Trigger Happy in the chat, as well as KW7, who says the biracials cannot lead no movement. We have to reread The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. I agree with that. With that said, let's hear from Buana. Buana, what say you?
Okay, so the question is, who is African, Koku?
No, that's not the question. The prompt The
Yes. Yeah.
prompt is there truth to what I just
Right.
read from
That's
from
right.
Dwayne?
That's right. That's right. I don't necessarily believe in purity. Um, I don't really believe in purity, and I don't take an American approach to this particular prompt. But let me say this: I'll put I'm gonna try to wear two hats with this, two hats, because the Americans approach, it seems like they get into a question of genetics, in terms of purity and practicing African culture and these kinds of things and practicing African nationalism, and they get into these kinds of discussions. Okay, so if I'm wearing my Gavi hat, I would say a African person in terms of purity and practicing Pan African nationalism, I would get their perspective, and I understand that. But if I if I put on my political hat and take off my Gavi hat, then we have a different kind of conversation because uh, Bob Marley is a black person. You know, he might have had a white father, but politically he was a black person through and through. And so is Jerry Rawlings. He was a black person. Now he may have not fit the stereotype of a black person in terms of an American perspective, but politically and culturally, he was a black person. You know what? I'll even go out on a limb and say this. And I know I go upset some people. Mom Donnie is a black person. Mom Donnie is a black person. Mom Donnie grew up in Uganda. Mandani is practice a lot of the shit he's be doing with his eating with his hands business. You know, I think that his foundation was African. His foundation is African. He wants to implement a system that is really ideally African. That whole kind of socialist, you know, communist perspective and stuff like that. That is a very essential African one politically. Politically, you know, and I think that going for only was talking about going forward. See, the problem becomes the narrative becomes very confusing because I know people I've been on the internet long enough to realize I live in a country, by the way, not living in the internet in reality, that I live around people who are genetically black, have black parents, grandparents, and great grandparents, but their culture is that of Britain. Their culture is that of a Eurocentric perspective. They live like white people, they act like white people, and their politics align with white people's politics. And so it's very difficult to say, okay, so since he is have parents genetically, he have parents which is African, that determines him. No, there's a loss in the discussion because culturally and politically you must align as well. And I have a difficulty in aligning people who may be genetically black, but all of that we see it in Django, you know, Samuel L. Jackson's character. You know, his character was politically, culturally aligned with that of the slave master. He was a black white person. He was a black white person. So and I understand Dwayne is he's coming from Guyana. So he culturally, you got the Asian, you got the Indians there, and you got the black people there. So that is a concern for him in terms of genetics. That's where he is coming from. But like I say, if you live in a society and culture, and I'm sure in Tanzania, you have black white people there as well. I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm certain of it, especially if they've been colonized by any of these people around here. So if you have not disabused yourselves of the ideas of Europeanization, you are, when I look at people, members of the FBA people, you know, I'm listening to white people. They are white people in black garb, politically, culturally, everything. They're more aligned with the conservative white supremacist party than they are with African people anywhere, or African thinking people. Let me put it like that as well. So there's a shortfall in the discussion when you just limit it to just being genetically black as being a black person or purity test. You know, there's going to be an issue. There's going to be a big issue going forward. I think, especially if we're trying to look forward, there's a lot of confusion going on, a whole lot of confusion going on. And I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket because a person had a black mother and a black father, or black grandfather and a black mother. That is not enough for me, in terms of looking at this whole idea of blackness. But I don't know. I'll leave it there, Koku. I'll leave it.
So, Buana, how do you prevent espionage if you accept a white presenting person who you accept as black? How do you prevent espionage?
And that's the thing. Now you raise a very important question. Very important question. Because you mean a white person, like how we know a white person be Koku, right?
Like in
Or white
general, yeah.
people. Okay, so now I am looking at an individual. I am seeing what his deeds are, how he moves, because it all falls to actions. It all falls to actions, brother. And uh, um, in Burkina Faso, uh, 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 what's her name now? Africana, Dr. Aracana took a bunch of Western black people to Burkina Faso, and I could ask the same kind of question. How do you prevent espionage? Because these people may be black presenting, but in fact they are white people. They are white people, so they are easier to disrupt that society than just a plain old white person, because you're going to be less trusting of the white person as opposed to the black person. So everyone says, "Oh, the Western people are coming over here. The black people are coming over here. They're trying to form relationships and links and ties with us." But these people are coming from the West. How do you prevent espionage? They presenting themselves as black people, but ideologically they are maybe very much aligned with Uncle Sam and John Bull and the Canadian government and all these other governments. Like I say, if having a black mother and a black father is solely the criteria that you basing these ideas on what is black on, you are still gonna be in problems, Coco. You're gonna still be in problems.
I hear you, although I gotta agree with Trigger a little bit. I don't know if that really tackles the question. We know that there's black folks. We have to be, we know in general that a lot of black folks, even amongst conscious black folks, they have that little white guy in them still. Pause. But at the same time, we're talking about a person who is presenting white, has white family, perhaps, right? But they look white, but they will claim up and down, but my mama was black. I allowing my mama and them people. How do you prevent espionage from that particular person?
For me, I watch a person's deeds and actions. I watch and see these governments. A lot of these governments, they do run background searches to see exactly who you are and what you are actually about. You can't do certain things for a certain amount of time and not reveal who you really are. Maybe a year, maybe 4 years. A lot of the FBI agents, after they've been undercover in trying to infiltrate the mafia for a couple of years, some of them become the mafia because they've been in these organizations so much. So you have to pull them out. I'm thinking a white presenting. I'm gonna watch that person. And who trying to say, well, I'm speaking on the black people. First of all, I'm speaking on behalf of a black. I'm a white person speaking on behalf of black people. I have black interests in mind. I have to watch him. I have to watch him like I would watch a black person as well. I have to just watch their deeds and their actions. That's the best that I could do. That's the best that I could do. There are people who have better information than me, who have better technology than me, who could search these people out to find exactly who these people are. They listen to us just as they listen to them. I would listen to them on the internet. I would listen to them in their private phone calls. I would try to find out and establish who is who. Who is who? We living in a different kind of world now where you could find that information out. You could cut on you could cut on their computer while they're in the house chilling and listen to their conversations. You have to do a level of investigation. But I would see that the investigation should not stop at the white person now. Because there are black presenting people out here who say they represent black people's interests, But you listen to them talk long enough, these people are just black white people. They are white people. I'm not deflecting, Trigger Happy. I'm not deflecting. This is a reality. You want you want me to just have an answer from a purist perspective, but I am trying to present arguments that has a certain level of complexity, because it's just not about black and white now. That is an extreme shortfall. When you're looking at people in general, people are more complicated than that and complex than that. It's not just about who have a brother. I live in a country that is led by many black leaders, and many of these people have been horrible to black people, horrible through the years. And their only concern is to feed white interest in the nation that I come from. How can I sit myself down and call these people black people, brother? How can I ever do that? That would be a mistake on my part. So all I'm saying is I'm trying to add a degree of complexity to the conversation, and this is the reason why I can't specifically talk just from a perspective of an American perspective, where you have that dichotomy between white and black. The black people here dominate. The black people here dominate, but it's just the people in the controls of power. Look at them and look at the deeds and look at how they mistreat black people on a daily basis for white interests. Are they white? Are they black people? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I can't accept that. But that's just my reality. That's just my reality. I don't think I'm wrong, but I'll just leave it. I'll leave it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
would just like to. Oh,
okay,
yeah. If I,
only 1 second. 1 second. I just want to ask. I just want to put this out there. Only you could address it when you speak, and then Buana could talk about it. Because we know that Pan Africanism, the concept, is a little different for us out in the diaspora as opposed to on the continent. What Pan Africanism means on the continent is a continental thing, largely. Should the Pan Africanist movement on the continent include North Africa, where there's so many, what they call them again, Arabs, and in general in Africa, where there's so many people of European descent that can call themselves this type of African and the other? Do we allow those people in Pan-African conversations? Only go ahead.
yeah. So it's this is like, again, it's complicated, mostly because it becomes what are the end goals? What are the end goals? Like I think we were talking about Cape Verde earlier and how there's a lot of mixed people. Yeah, there's a lot of mixed people everywhere. It goes both ways. You know what I mean? There's a lot of mixed whites, just as there are a lot of mixed blacks. There's a lot of mixed Asians. Yes, absolutely. The question is, are you seeking black power? Right? And then as Bonner went and articulated too, a lot of times black power might not necessarily be the black power you want. A lot of times you might be in a country where the government is doing some F shit and they're black. So, there's that issue too. As far as, who Garvey was accepting of, yes, Garvey was very accepting of, the one drop rule. And again, the one drop rule is interesting. But, there's two things to it. One, that was a weakness, obvious weakness that J. Edgar Hoover exploited. So it's like, yeah, Garvey did something, but one of the things about history is you're supposed to learn from it. J. Edgar Hoover very, very easily said, oh, this guy is accepting one drop black people, so I'm just gonna send my white agents. I'm gonna send my one drop agent. I'm gonna, like, he created, J. Edgar Hoover started the whole thing of black agents, black CIA agents, just for Garvey. Because he understood like J. Edgar Hoover, he understood the counterattack, the countermeasure. But again, it's not to say that somebody who's purely black is not going to betray the movement. Obviously, they will. It's not to say that somebody who's has a white parent wouldn't betray the movement. But the question is, what is this person with a white parent portraying a movement for? You know, what is the person with the white parents' interest? And really, we have to start. You know, we have to be serious. If you have a white parent, right? Like if we're teaching self-love, let's say we're teaching self-love, love yourself, you know, we're teaching the love of Africa, the love of black people, love the black woman, love the black man. And the reason why we're loving the black woman and the reason why we're loving the black man is because we are black women, we are black men, and our parents are black women, and our parents are black men. You got somebody with a white parent, right? You got somebody with a white parent. The only acceptable thing you can do if you're going to enlist the help of somebody with a white parent is tell them that they can't speak. You know, sit there, just sit there and shut up. Because if you're saying, hey man, if you're a white person, or if you're a half white person, and you saying how much you hate white people, you hate yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause you're white too. You know what I'm saying? Because that's another thing to realize. It's like if you want to go by the argument that somebody mixed is black, okay, fine. They're also white. If you want to go that way, I just call them mixed. But if you want to say that they're black, say that they're white too, because they're no more black than they are white. And so if they're one, then they're both, and that's how it is. Now, I would allow for, I mean, me personally, I would say, hey, look, if you don't have a direct parent who is white, then we could talk. You know what I mean? If you don't have a direct parent who is white, then we could talk. But if one of your parents is white, sorry, but it don't make no sense to trust you. Now, again, as Buana said, hey, if both your parents are black, nobody should trust you, automatically. Absolutely. But there's a difference between somebody with two black parents and difference between somebody with one white parent, because either this person, and we call them white, we call them white, but either this white person or this mixed person, either they love white people because and they should, because they're white, or they're half white, or their parents white, or they hate white people and they hate themselves and they're filled with hate and they're motivated by hate, and you don't want to be next to them. I'm not saying there's something wrong with hate, but it's just weird when you hate yourself. And that's the thing too. When a black person hates himself, you don't want to be near him neither. If a black person comes to you with blonde hair, blue eyes, and says, "Man, I hate N-words," you're not hanging around this person. So it's the same with a white person. A white or mixed person comes along, "Man, I hate white people. I hate, they devils and this." And you're like, "Motherfucker, you a devil." So I mean, my thing is that it's just I think it's self-evident. I mean, obviously, I know there's different opinions, but I think it's self-evident. And that said, if they're, when we talk about the international blah blah blah, I don't even go with that, because I'm saying to myself, look, if we're serious about building up Pan-African nationalism, we are going to, you have to start working locally before you start working internationally. Now, obviously, if you have because see, if we're serious. What I'm saying is this: if you look at what the quote unquote pan-European movement is, or what the white boy has done, right? The white British man first builds up England. The white Frenchman first builds up France. And then he doesn't give a fuck what the ethnicity of Cape Verde or Jamaica or whatever was. He goes there and takes over. And that's what we call white power. So if we talk about black power, we're not worried about the ethnic makeup of Cape Verde or Trinidad or Brooklyn, New York or Chicago. We're not worried about the ethnic makeup. We're worried about building up power so that we can get more power in other places of the earth. And the reality is this: a lot of people are not talking about that. So a lot of black people are not worth listening to. A lot of black people, a lot of mixed people, a lot of them are not worth talking, listening to. And that's one of the issues that we have, because a lot of the leaders are these mulattoes who are not talking about power. That's what I want to say.
So I want to respond to that, Coco, if I can. So because he mentioned a good thing. What I wanted to talk about, I'm not trying to get away from the conversation. He talked about power. Now, in my country, there were black people here and there were white people here who had a lot of the power in the country. When the black man replaced the white man in the country, a lot of white people couldn't accept the leadership and rulership of under a black government. What did they do? They decided to leave. They fled to the United States, fled to Canada, fled back to England. They can't accept that space politically. So they say, well, we ain't gonna accept that. Now, uh, now, if I'm in a country and I'm in control of a country, and I may not have all the people to govern the country well. Just having black people govern the country in terms of having enough doctors, having enough scientists, having enough farmers, etc., etc., etc. There exists within my society people of other nations, but they don't want to work against my control of the reins of power. They say, you know what, I'm not thinking along the lines. I could build with you to build this great black nation where you're trying to effectively cause the great development of my people, and in turn my children my children will develop as well. You know what I mean? For me, in my head, politically, they align with blackness. They are aligning with blackness. This is the same thing with Mamdani's parents. Mamdani's parents is interesting. It's interesting. Mamdani's parents, they stayed in Uganda after Idi Amin kicked the Asians out of the country. After. That means that the Mamdani's parents decided to accept black leadership in that country. They didn't say, well, you know what, he kicked us out of the country, and Idi Amin allowed certain Asians to stay in the country because they didn't mind assimilating with the black people. They didn't mind accepting black control and black power. The same thing happening in Haiti. The same with the Polish. So I'm saying politically, these people align with black assimilation. There are black people. They can't do. They don't want to do have anything to do with black control, black power, black these kinds of ideas. They say, you know what? I don't like this kind of governance. I need to get out of this right away. Politically, they say a black man can't run a country well. In their minds. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of complexity to the conversation, and I just don't want to. And this is the reason why the purity discussion becomes a difficult one for me. This whole idea of purity, because if you have these disparate people remaining in the country, but who are black, just like me and you, they're gonna undermine your leadership in society in terms of power and governance. They're gonna undermine that. These same black people with black parents and grandparents. Whereas the Asian man who have the same kind of skill, he say, you know what, I could work to build this society and government. I don't have a problem with the fact that he's an African man. Let me work alongside him and try to see whether we could move ahead and develop the society itself. Like I say, there's a little bit more complexity to the discussion when we just align in us, this purity discussion, when we just align in these ideas solely on the basis of genetics. You're going to get in problems with that. I personally think anyways, but I'll leave it. I'll leave it, man.
Good stuff, everybody. I'll just read these last two comments from Trigger Happy before we go to Should It Be Stop number 2. Trigger Happy says, Oni's point of purity has some working to it, but Buana's point has to be rejected to a degree because you have to always draw the line with people who are fully non-black. Lastly, he says you have to be strategic about those who are non-black and not necessarily deem them as part of your group on a continental and international level. Always deem them another nation you're working with. Good conversation to start off the show tonight. Make sure you guys hit the like button for me. Share the show on your social media. Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2. If there's no last comments here, let me just grab prompt. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 says Guyana has a lot of land and considered underpopulated. Should black people move to Guyana and build it up. I saw something interesting today. I didn't get to delve into it, but I'll bring it up later when we have the discussion. Something I saw Elon Musk talking about. But this prompt comes with a link that is going to take us to another post on X. This one from Bloomberg Originals. It says, Guyana's economy is the fastest growing in the world, driven by a booming oil sector, but Venezuela is laying claim to its neighbor's oil-rich region, and a threat of a quote-unquote resource curse looms large. We'll watch this video. It's just a minute. It's just shy of 2 minutes. We'll watch it, then we'll discuss.
The world's fastest growing economy is this tiny nation, Guyana, transformation. And the reason for that growth is quite simple. Oil. Lots and lots of oil. The oil reserves are so vast that Venezuela's president, Nicolás Maduro, has escalated long-standing claims over the Essequibo region, which makes up about 70% of Guyana's territory. In addition to the threats from its neighbor, the oil poses other challenges. That's because while natural resource windfalls can create phenomenal wealth, they can also cause problems such as hyperinflation, social and political upheaval, and a widening wealth gap.
Nothing is coming our way.
Financially, I'm actually in a better position to help my family, to help myself better.
We need leadership that acknowledges that this is a difficult society. There are cleavages in the society that can't be eliminated just by government spending.
Essentially, it looks like Guyana has to strike a balance, invest in necessary infrastructure and diversification, but at a sustainable pace. The president says he's aware of the risk.
We are very mindful about overheating. It has not happened as yet because of our policy formulation.
One concern is the mere size of the government, that it's growing. The economy is becoming largely an oil economy. That diversification is clearly going to be even more difficult than it was before.
So let me see if there's any more to that.
The world's fastest.
Someone posts under it, says a lot of good things coming to Guyana for sure, starting with Jardine Pauline, the Guyanese pop princess. And that's the only comment.
Fastest growing economy is this tiny nation.
Sorry. So again, the tweet says Guyana's economy is the fastest growing in the world, driven by a looming oil sector, but Venezuela's laying claim to its neighbor's oil-rich region, and the threat of a resource curse looms large. It's funny, I was talking to a Trinidadian fellow this week, and he was telling me about this same. He was telling me that Trinidad's oil now really comes from Guyana. The natural gas still comes from Trinidad, but the oil, they ran out of oil. And what they did is they drilled down and across underneath the same region that Venezuela is claiming is their land. And we had an interesting conversation about like the Berlinist type states, these borders that these folks created when they were ruling these countries, and when they got up out of there, they left these gray areas, so to speak, in terms of this land, that now, knowing full well it probably will become a problem later on, but they didn't give a shit. And at the time, they didn't know it had oil. Very interesting thing, man. But let me mix it up this time. Let me start with Juan on this one. Juan, what say you? You should read topic number 2.
I don't think that you should see a mass migration to Guyana because they have oil. They need technicians and specialists who are able to take the oil out of the ground at cost. And they need people with skilled people there. And for me, this is gonna be a clusterfuck because Trump already has military ships in the Caribbean Sea, and his idea is he trying to take it all. The Guyanese oil, he trying to take the oil from Venezuela. He ain't only coming for Venezuelan oil. And if the Guyanese government doesn't strike a proper deal with the United States government, they can just gangster it from them as they gangster other things, and this is the prime example of when sometimes people say, why don't you go back to your country and fix your own country? This guy, the prime minister, I forget his name now, Jagan, I can't remember his name, or Ali. He is actually trying to fix that country, and because he's been given a huge endowment, huge endowment. He didn't even expect that they would have found all these oil deposits in Guyana. So he is doing his best as a young guy, trying to transition that undeveloped state into really a developed kind of situation. And I don't know if he's going to be able to pull it off, because he does need help in doing that. I don't know who he's going to recruit to help and assist with that. I don't know if he's going to use the Americans, but you get the Venezuelans who trying to pick beef with him over oil rights as well. So you get the Venezuelan people, the Venezuelan government, Maduro, who is trying to fight against the Guyanese government. And now you have the big shark in the Caribbean Sea who trying to take it away from all of them, all of them, all of them, because the American government looks for an oil resource all over the world. And if the fact that they discovered it in their backyard, manifest destiny takes over. They want to take that away from what, because they say, well, these N words and Punjabis shouldn't have all this kind of wealth in our backyard, so we can take it away from them. So even if you have a bunch of black people going there, the first thing they got discover is you have to fight for the territory and land and oil rights. And I don't know if they're willing to take off their suits or where they come from and represent another government, another territory in which they never really lived in before. It's a clusterfuck. It's a clusterfuck. And I really hope and wish and pray that, I don't know, man, this is, oh man, the person described it as an oil curse or a resource curse. I agree with that statement. I agree with that sentiment. Donald Trump has already killed like 36 people in the Caribbean already, bombed them under the water, calling them drug, whatever. They're trying to take over the territory. They're trying to gangster it from them. So I don't know if black people all over the world in the diaspora want to go to Guyana and just try to see if they could help or assist, or I don't know what their end game is in trying to go there to do that. Because usually, if they're coming from Caribbean countries, maybe, but if they're coming from first world countries, Guyana right now is still a very undeveloped country, extremely undeveloped. So you have so-called first world people coming to third world country to start from scratch. That's going to be extremely difficult for them. Extremely difficult if they never lived that kind of life before. And I don't know. I really don't. I think that they need more technicians. They need more defense. If they could get it, they need more defense. I personally, if my end game would be for the Guyanese government and the Venezuelan government to work together to first to try to defend themselves in what's coming in the Caribbean Sea right now. That's the first thing I would do. Then the second thing I would do is try to see if I can meet out some kind of deal with the Venezuelan government to see if we could share resources, as opposed to just one government having it or one country having all the oil reserves and resources, and then Venezuela could keep what's actually theirs. But that's where I kind of looking at this situation, Koku.
So, Buana, when you were speaking there, especially towards the end, you reminded me of a conversation that Brother Bakari was having one time. Shout out to Brother Bakari. I was talking to him earlier today. But you remind me of a conversation Bakari had on one of his lives, if I remember correctly. And I forgot who it was exactly. It was one of the regulars on Bakari's platform. And they were like, Bakari was talking about buy black. So if you have to drive, 10 miles to go to a black grocery, drive the 10 miles, etc. Someone was arguing that it's inconvenient for someone to have to go 10 miles to go and buy from a black grocery store. And when you were talking about first world is going to a third world, it made me think of how we kind of we know that we need to be organized, we need to be unified, but we're not really willing to be inconvenienced. And I find that to be a little bit sad that we can't see the bigger picture and take the little inconvenience. So what if you have to go live in a zinc roof house? The weather's pretty good. Food. Guyana is the number 1 country in the region for food security. You ain't gonna starve, right? Sure, and like the problem suggests, it did suggest for Black people to move to Ghana to help build it up. So we are talking about the technicians, the engineers, the this, that, and the other. We're not talking about guys who are just vagabonds or something like that. But we're talking about people equipped with skills to go, yeah, so what if you have to live and eat some cassava that they don't eat in the States? So what if you got to go, eat some green banana or something like that and live in a tin roof house? What's the problem? If you're helping this project, right, to give power to a group of Black folks within a particular region. I wonder about that. Go ahead, Bonner.
No, my answer to that is the people like Oni, they are 1 in a million. They're a dime a dozen. He's a professional man, and he decided to live in a different kind of world, and just on the practical realities of the Coco. Most Americans don't even have a passport, brother. Most of them have never traveled outside of the States. Now I focus on the United States, but I could take this out of the United States and say that for Canada. I could say that for England. And I talk about technical people now. Now, the some of the Caribbean, they go to the University of West Indies in Mona. People from better, countries which are more economically comfortable. They would go to a place like Jamaica and Trinidad and Barbados strategically for a different kind of reason. For a reason, when I listen to the Maurice Bishop, when he was going through his thing in Grenada, there was a lot of Black people coming from the diaspora attracted to help, come to Grenada to help. But these people are a dime a dozen. And what you need for that country is you need thousands and thousands of people. You need a lot more people. Like you say, Guyana is a big land space, which is more or less really empty. And when you're talking about industrial development, especially in terms of oil, you're going to need to recruit a whole lot of people. I don't necessarily know if, first of all, if Black people in large numbers like that would commit themselves to do that, first of all. And I don't know if Guyana has the infrastructure to take that influx of thousands and thousands of people being recruited for specifically that specific task. So these are the questions the Guyanese government and the leadership will have to answer. They would have to answer that. I don't know. And then another thing too is you get a local paradigm where there are more Indians in Guyana than there are Black people. So when you're recruiting these Black people, that is going to upset the power dynamic in Guyana. So I really wish Kofi was here. If Kofi was here, he could bring a little bit more clarity to the situation. But I wish he was here to speak on it in more detail. But I think that there's a lot of working parts. But let me also say this though. The lady say, represent the artists, the little dancing artists from Guyana. You have Byron Van Sertima, you have Walter Rodney, and you can talk about the dance artists. Come on, man. I think that's funny. But I'll leave it. I know Oni been waiting.
Yeah, Oni, you heard what Juan had to say, and you see what the chat was talking about. First of all, Trigger says here, well, that's why the talk should first be at those with means to move and make an impact on any sort of economic project for Black people, which is what I was trying to get at. Like, it's a project that, of course, you just won't try to get any and everybody just to come. You try to get the people who can build infrastructure to come. And by the way, let me say this too. as a person who's worked in several research labs and stuff in America, a lot of the people who are actually doing the work is black people. A lot of the people doing the work is black, and I would say brown, but I try not to say black and brown. But a lot of people doing the work is black people. The white boy at the top gets the credit. He gets the name. He gets the visibility. But usually the technicians and the researchers, many of them are black folks. So the idea that we might not have enough black people with technical know-how and skills, I don't agree with that. But with that said, man, let's hear from Oni. Oni would say.
All right, yeah. So I was taking a few notes. I also didn't realize the thing. But here's the thing about Guyana. First off, I would say this. You see, Buana said Trump looked at Guyana same way any of us could look at it and said, let me get down there. It's not a question of should black people move there. I mean, if you're serious about black power, it's just, yeah, you should move anywhere. But like if China had good resources and was an easy picking, you should go to China. If America was easy, you should go to America. Like it's just how it is. That said, this is another ABA situation. This is black folk talking about they should go anywhere but Africa. like it's just go anywhere but Africa. My thing is this: the reason why one of the things I don't like about this question is the reality that black people have not moved in mass since 1850. You know what I mean? We don't do it. So I know when I'm telling people, hey, come to Africa. I know people ain't gonna do that. I'm just saying it because it's the right thing to say. But I know black folk ain't trying to go, on no plane and go nowhere or go on no boat. I know that. We know that the mass migration stuff is not happening anymore. So when somebody asks this question, hey, should we be doing that? Look, you should be doing anything, honestly, right? The question is it gonna happen? And we know it's not. As far as and that's another thing I wanted to point out too, right here. It's like, as far as anything is concerned, though, black folk, we got to be serious about what our objectives are, and I say it like this: you want to be a big fish, okay? You don't want to be a little fish in a big pond. You want to be a big fish, either in a little pond or big fish in a big pond, but you got to be a big fish. And the reality is most black folk are little fish. Most black folk are little fish. And most black folk don't have aspirations beyond being little fish. Koku just said, hey, you go to the lab, you see a lot of black folk working and doing all the things in the back. Yeah, and a lot of those black folk are content. No disrespect to, Koku knows these people, but a lot of them are content to be little fish. And the white boy is going to be a big fish. He gets the credit. He wants the credit. I can't tell, a lot of us don't want to wipe our own asses, but I'll tell you this, man, it is dangerous to be a little fish. I don't know if you guys heard about what happened in Tanzania maybe 2 weeks ago. But yeah, they shooting made you look, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And it's just like, when you're a little fish, you're just, I had a sister who used to write on my website. Her name was Sitting Ducks. You're just sitting ducks. So yeah, if you go to Guyana and you a little fish, and you're gonna be on your little fish behavior, right? The reality is, like Barnum was just saying, America, who try to be a big fish, might do something. The Guyanese government, who are the big fish, are gonna be doing something, and you're gonna be left out cold. So again, I would say we go back to that thing of ABA. We just want to go anywhere but Africa. If you are going to go around moving, and most black people are not going to, but if you are going to go around moving, just go move to Africa. I mean, obviously, Guyana looks good. A lot of countries look good, but the reality is, if most people are not going to do it, so it just becomes, you know, theoretical. Like, yeah, obviously, you should, if you can, if you have the means or whatever, right? You should go somewhere else so that you can be a big fish. Now, most of us don't know anything about the gas industry or the oil industry. So I don't know what we're possibly going to be doing in that situation. However, if you think you have the capacity, then you got to be a man like all these other men in the world. You know, I see countless. I don't see that. I don't really see Chinese or Arabs or Indians, but when I do, I see that they. I don't know what they were doing in their home country, but they come here and present themselves as men who go out in the world and try to find their way or try to find a way and try to be a big fish. That's all I'm saying.
So I like what Oni was saying there about being the big fish, and especially at the end where he talks about other men go out into the world, etc. So I think I think kind of, and I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. And shout out to African Native World, by the way, chat. But I think that in a sense, the prompt is kind of asking, well, if our folks don't want to go to Africa and try to build and live prosperous lives for at least themselves, their children, etc., maybe they'll go a little not as far and they'll go to Guyana, which is still in the hemisphere. Do you guys get what I'm saying? I think the question, in a sense, kind of gets to that. Like, why suffer in the U.S. when potentially, with all this underdevelopment, all this space, this land, and a booming, upward ticking economy, why not go there instead? Because, which does lead to the bigger question is, why is it so difficult for our people to move? Why is it so difficult for our people to stay, and in particular with some of these nativist groups now, not to flee and to go somewhere to be the big fish, as Oni would put it? Why do you think? Do you think is the analogy I've given before? Do you think it's the rat in the cage who you forget to put the top on, and you would think the rat will just run away, or but instead they just stay close to the cage even though they got out? What are y'all thoughts? Wanna go ahead?
No, I think, me personally, I think it's the fear of the unknown. And Oni was just mentioning, he's talking about being a big fish. Why stay someplace in like NYC as a small fish when it's possible that you could become a big? I think that many of us don't see ourselves in the big fish position. We always see ourselves as the guppy, the little guppy who have to, go on a treadmill, work for 30 years, hopefully get a watch and get a good retirement. I'm safe. I don't have to really do a whole lot of thinking. I don't really have to really do a whole lot of navigating. I am safe where I am. Most of us don't see ourselves in that light. And for the brothers who do, I respect the nativist movement talk about fleeing as if it's a bad thing. I think that sometimes leaving your comfort zone is an extremely brave act. It's an extremely brave act because you are going into the unknown. You don't know what could happen to you. And really and truly, you don't know what could happen to you, but you feel or think that there's some greater opportunity out there, and you brave yourself to actually do it if you have the means. Because that's a whole other discussion. There are many people who would want to go, but they don't have the means to go. But in addressing the brothers and sisters who actually have the means to go, I think it's really the fear of the unknown, because leaving your comfort zone and going into to the unknown for the possibility of being a greater person that you could be where you're sitting right now, I think that is an extremely brave act. Extremely. And many of us, whether we want to admit it or not, don't have the testicular fortitude to do it. It's fair, Koku. It's fair. It's fair. It's fair. Most, like I say, most people don't travel outside. They stay. let alone country, with a bunch of people who you don't know, never spoke to before, with a different kind of culture. That is not an easy thing. That is not an easy thing. And most people are committed to their comfortability. This is the reason why they will remain average. This is the reason why they will remain average and swear thinking that they special and unique and different. No, 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 no. The brave people actually, this is the reason why Christopher Columbus dominated this side of the world right now. Even though he thought he was going to drop off the face of the planet, he had enough balls to do it. And all the other people who come before us. And I think it's an extremely brave act to do. And many of us don't have the balls and what it takes to do that. Could you imagine leaving a small country and going to a country where there's millions and millions and millions of people and try to acclimate yourself to that situation? Many people don't even have an idea what it takes to do that. They can't even fathom it. This is like I say, people are safe and we are risk averse. As Black people, we are extremely risk averse, and this is the reason why we don't get big rewards, because we refuse to take big risks. We are risk averse people. It is what it is. It ain't a slight. If you're comfortable drinking your conch, drinking your colic and eating your conch snack, and watching Netflix, that's okay for some people. they're big game hunters. And I go knock them, but I'm saying that is an extremely brave act to go out into the unknown, to have that conqueror mentality. I'm gonna win regardless, wherever I am on this planet. And I give my kudos to the brothers and sisters who actually take that initiative and do that.
Yeah, but I think you make a great point there, which kind of adds to what I'm trying to say and what Oni was saying. When I mentioned the lab people, and Oni talked about it for a second as well, the thing is, a lot of those people in the labs who are actually doing the work, but this guy called the PI, principal investigator, is getting the props. A lot of those guys, if they remove themselves to somewhere else, they will be the guy. They will be the person getting the props for the work that was being done. I think we're supposed to, it's good that we talk about stuff like this. I think we got to start talking about, like, we got to have the testicular fortitude to say that, you know what, we got this skill, be it in the West, and now we're going to go brave it. We're going to go and preferably in Africa, but as Afro-Native World pointed out, Martin Delaney said, aside from the motherland, Northern South America was one of the best places for Black people. And Afro-Native World says, check his book. But yeah, I think we supposed to be pushing it through to our people's heads. Like, there is better out there. Don't let them fool you. You staying to be subservient where you could go somewhere and be the man. Oni, did you want to add any last thoughts to this?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Look, as somebody who grew up in America for a long time, one thing I realized is that this white boy holds our hands. We're spoiled by him. He don't really, he does a handful of fuck shit and you complain, and he kind of doesn't do that much fuck shit, Like, sure, you might be like, oh, but he harassed our youth on the way to so on and so forth, and he tells us to pull up our pants, But, people who aren't trying to live under this white boy's rule, under this white boy's dominance, we see Black folk doing bad shit too. I dare say sometimes we see them doing so. Like I'll tell y'all this, man. These people just cut off our internet for like 5 fucking days. No internet. Because we were little fish. And then, throughout the night, I shouldn't even talk about it, real talk. But throughout the night, we just hearing gunshots and shit. We don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? And they do that. And you say to yourself, man, they don't do that shit in America. You know what I'm saying? They don't cut off your internet because, they say we got an economy to run and type shit, right? But why I'm saying that is to say, we spoiled. We spoiled in the West. And a lot of times people in the West will tell you, people in Africa will tell you, man, I wish we had something like America, man. We wish we had elections like America. And I'm like, yo, that's not how the elections go. It's not like, but again, I'm here and I'm like, I ain't never seen shit like this sometimes. But I'm still cool with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm still like, look, I'd rather be here than there. You understand? Because sometimes you got to say to yourself, even if things would be easier, even if things would be whatever, you got to say to yourself, what is the end goal? And that's why, when you have these kind of questions of, hey, should we go to Guyana? Absolutely. If you're a black man, okay, you're a black man, and I'm saying black man, on purpose, right? But if you are a black man and you feel like you can do something with the oil reserves in Guyana, or you think you could do something with large tracts of land, then why the F would you not go to Guyana? Why is that a question? If you believe that you're capable, because the thing is this, everybody else who thinks that they are a man, thinks that they're capable, says, I want to go down there. Venezuela is saying, we want to move in on Guyana. The United States is saying, we want to move in on Guyana. Right? So if you're a black man and you believe that you can do something, then go ahead and say, yeah, I want to move into Guyana. And if you say, well, but I don't know if I'm going to have internet access all day. All right, man, just go live with your white boy then. Go live with Zaddy. Okay, go live with Zaddy. But if you're a black man, you say, look, I might not have internet. Okay, I might not. But and like real talk, internet's not that hard to develop. If you become a big fish, you get the internet. You get the good internet. You know what I'm saying? My issue is I'm in Tanzania. I'm not a big fish. You see what I'm saying? I can't call up the president when I want to talk to the president, right? But the only way that I'm gonna become a big fish, well, not the only way, but there's only a handful of ways to become a big fish. And black folk are not trying to do that. A lot, what Buana was saying about us being risk averse is facts. A lot of us are not trying to take no risk. A lot of us not trying to, song goes, don't rock the boat, or whatever. Or no, don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the licks and the rivers like you used to. That's a good song. It's a good message, but you got to remember, if you're a black man, or if you're a man, white man, black man, whatever, if you're a man, you got to have the adventurous spirit. And unfortunately, we don't see the adventure in a lot of our brothers and sisters. But I'm telling you, and look, you're not going to see it in a lot of white folk neither. But what I'm telling you is that when you go abroad, you see the foreigners who say, hey, look, I want to go try my life somewhere else, because like I said, I don't see Chinese people. But if I take a car, a certain area, you will see Chinatown. How the Chinese end up there, I don't know. You talk about in America don't like Chinese for how long? How many hundreds of years, right? But how long was Chinatown there? And you got several Chinatowns in New York. Okay? Why? Because some Chinese men said, we're going to try to do some shit. We're going to try to do some shit. And they did it. That's all I'm saying.
Elon Musk come from the white boy come from South Africa and go to America and become the wealthiest man in the world. There is I think that we should take chances from time to time and trust ourselves. I think that trusting yourself is a big thing. And like I say, shout out to the brothers who had enough balls to trust themselves. And as Oni was saying, if you have the skill set and you see where there's a space for you in Guyana to do something, hey man, get up off the couch and go try to see what you could do. One generation later, you might come back living a whole lot different. Only is going through the paces right now with his stress. Watch when he leaves Tanzania. If he decides to, watch what can happen, because he is not thinking like an average person. If you think on an average level, you're gonna get average results all the time, all the time. But if you think in an unorthodox way, you're gonna have irregular results, whether they good or bad. But we will be willing to take the risk, regardless of the fact. Only I would say get out of the Tanzanian ghetto. You need you brother. You get out of the Tanzanian ghetto, please. If they shooting, could you please move to some middle class area in Tanzania?
Nah, man, you already know we shoot back. Now I'm joking.
Afro-Native Girl in the chat asked if Kofi was not here. No, Kofi is not here. So we weren't able to get his insight on this conversation. And then he asked if we talked about the food security thing. No, I mentioned it, but I didn't show that prompt this week. I was gonna save it for. I'm saving it for another week. But I talked about them being what's the term again? Having food sovereignty, which is pretty good. Going back real quick before we go to the next prompt, I remember being a kid and looking at these Chinese people with a Lucky Food store around the corner from me in Nassau. And I remember saying to myself, boy, what did it take for these motherfuckers to come down here with all these black folks down in the Grove and stuff like that, to open up a Lucky Food store, or to go to Jamaica and be like fully within the community selling their goods and all that stuff. Yeah, it takes some balls. It takes some balls. But like Buana and Oni kind of co-sign, I guess we lack it. But and I also guess that we also don't want to be inconvenienced. That's what Brother Bakari was getting at in his stream that time. Some folks ain't going 10 miles to go to a black grocery store when there's a white one 2 blocks away. It's just a sad situation. It's a sad situation. Anyway, let's move on to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3. I want to shout out everyone who's participating here tonight. Numbers keep going up and down, but I'm glad for you guys who are here live with us. Make sure you guys hit the like button, share the show. And if you're here live with us, man, comment. If you're here in the playback, make sure to drop some comments in the comment section. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says, is she a man or woman? Or is this discrimination against black women? Or is this protecting women's sports? This came with a link that's going to take us to YouTube. Once again, every time I do this, this knocks off my audio. Let me share it again with you guys. So this is a story that I was familiar with for some years back. It's about a female athlete named Caster Semenya. And apparently they had a 7-year legal battle that just ended. So we'll watch the video and then we'll discuss it.
The case for her was not about returning to the track, but was more about making sure that her dignity is respected, that her rights are protected, but also the rights of other athletes who have the same condition that she has. And she has consistently said over the years that she's being unfairly discriminated against over a condition she's got no control over. She was born with this condition. She has been described as intersex, and that means she's got higher testosterone levels than other women. But she said, apart from that, she's done nothing wrong, and she feels like for years she's been punished for the way that, quote, God had created her. I remember when she had that first win way back when she came out as a teenager who came back home in South Africa and was celebrated for winning a gold medal at the Olympics, and how quickly that joy was stripped from her. She has been media shy for years, only rarely communicating with the media. But I remember a time when I went to go visit the village where she was from in Polokwane, and her community was just stunned. They couldn't make sense of what was happening. At the time, they were saying they feel that she's being discriminated against. The sex tests that she'd been subjected to were the first they'd ever heard of such a thing. Even the word intersex, they'd never heard of. Custer herself didn't know she had this condition until she was subjected to those tests. So a lot of people over the years have said this is a young woman who had been robbed of a chance to enjoy her victory and enjoy a thriving international career.
We were sold a lie to garner sympathy for the male athlete competing in women's track and field. We were sold a lie so that our support was directed towards the male athlete, and that we would have disdain for the female athletes who dared to speak up, who dared to complain about being put in a position where they were competing against males.
I suppose you can't do much more than set a personal best in an Olympic final. You gave it your all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'll have to watch it back. I feel a bit disappointed because I had a lot left at the end, but I don't know whether that means I ran it right or whether I had too much left, but I was conscious of going off too fast and I can't keep up with what's going on in the front, and I know that, so just had to sort of run my own race. And
what about this event overall? When we talked earlier on about, it seems like almost a two-tier event, but you're chasing down somebody like Caster Semenya, who's light years ahead, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to avoid the issue all year, and you can see how emotional it was, between me and Melissa and Joanna at the end, and we know how each other feel, but it's out with our control and very much relying on the people at the top sorting it out. And I think the public can see as well, sorry, just how difficult it is with the change of rule, but all we can do is give it our best.
While we should have sympathy for people born with conditions they have no control over, that doesn't mean that we should give people a pass and allow male athletes to compete in the wrong category. That doesn't mean that we should allow male athletes to trample all over the women's category and to get what they do not deserve. It's as simple as that. We were sold a lie that women of African descent had high testosterone, even to levels that were comparable to men. We were sold a lie and told that we didn't believe this lie. We were racists. We were lied to and told that Black women just happened to be more masculine. This racist lie was pushed for decades. Some women just have high testosterone. We have no right to discriminate against somebody who has such an advantage when it comes to sports, because we all have advantages in sports, right? And yes, some women are intersex. But in the case of Caster Semenya, we are not talking about a woman who is intersex. We are talking about somebody who is male, who has a condition that only affects males. Even those born with differences of sex development are still either male or female. Semenya has even admitted to having male anatomy. And what does he think about these facts? What was his response? So what?
The medical terms, what they tell me, my testosterone, being born, without the uterus, being born with internal testicles, those don't make me less a woman. It's just the differences that I was born with, and I embrace them.
Because they say I have advantage, in high testosterone. Of course, I do have it. So what?
This person knows he is male. Most of these male athletes know they're male by the time they go through puberty, because they experience male puberty. Is it any wonder they excel in sports? Because they're competing in the wrong category. They're competing against women.
It is believed that they were sort of basically intersex, that they were born with not very easily identifiable sexual organs when they were born, and both were raised as girls. But actually, when testing was done, they established that actually they had male chromosomes, and they've been mistakenly raised as girls. They are men.
Well, if they have the condition that Caster Semenya has, and we know about that because of Semenya taking it to the courts and everything was published, then they would be babies who were thought to be girls or who had ambiguous genitals when they were born, registered as girls, but would have gone through a full male puberty. And at that point, all would have become clear. And there are people, particularly if they come from countries or rural areas in countries where they don't have good access to healthcare, there are babies who are erroneously registered as girls. And when they grow up, it all becomes clear.
If they were competing in the correct category, would they have gone all the way to the Olympics? Probably not. They know it. We know it.
I was so touched by your book because you were discovering things about yourself on a world stage. You didn't know yourself. You said, I am not a cheater. You were born with female genitalia, but also in your body you had higher levels of testosterone. That's why they were questioning you.
The medical terms, what they tell me, my testosterone, being born, without the uterus, being born with internal testicles, those don't make me less a woman.
So you said, how did you said it's hard to explain how it feels to be recategorized as a human being. Could you take us through that moment? Because number one, you're gender tested. You didn't even know you were being gender tested. Let's start with that. And then they give the results by accidentally leaking them to the media.
Yeah.
Just take us to that day and what you went through and how you got through it.
Of course, when they say they leaked the result accidentally, I was like, no, that was purposefully, done. But for me, I think that's when I realized, you have the power in you to own yourself. Because end of the day, even if they define you for who they think you are, you should love yourself.
We were lied to and told that genetic tests were inhumane, were a violation of human rights even.
They feel that she's being discriminated against, the sex tests that she'd been subjected to.
The various lawsuits that were filed by Semenya alleged that such testing stripped him of his dignity, were invasive, intrusive, and that no athlete should be subjected to such tests, when in reality, a simple cheek swab is all that's required to determine whether one is male or female, to determine whether one has XX or XY chromosomes, to determine whether one is eligible to compete in the women's category. A simple cheek swab, something that I believe all female athletes would be more than willing to undergo in order to protect the integrity of the women's category. We were told that these tests unfairly target Black women, that these tests discriminate against Black women who happen to have high testosterone, when the reality is no woman has testosterone within the levels that a man has, no matter her ethnicity. When we talk about a woman who has testosterone levels that's comparable to men, we're talking about males.
Obviously, there have been some cases in the past where women born as women have naturally high testosterone levels, and sometimes there have been cases where it's transgender women. Do we know?
It's never about naturally high testosterone levels in women. When they talk about females with these high testosterone levels, they're really talking about males with disorders of sex development. And in some cases, rarely happens in developed countries, but in some cases, babies born with these disorders are wrongly labeled as female, and then they grow up and go through male puberty, and everyone then knows they're male. But this is well documented now, for example, with Caster Semenya, that they have internal testes, they produce testosterone, they go through puberty, they have all those advantages. And frankly, the prospect of these people boxing against women, if they are male, is terrifying.
Caster Semenya's withdrawal from sports is an admission that we were not dealing with a woman of African descent being discriminated against for looking a certain way or for having naturally high occurring testosterone. What we were dealing with was a male athlete competing in the women's category this whole time. Women have lost out on 900 medals over the years due to male athletes masquerading as women, masquerading as females even, and being allowed to do so because no such testing has been required for decades. But now World Athletics has officially introduced sex testing as a requirement to prove one's eligibility for the women's category. And no female athlete would object to this. The only ones who are going to object to this are the male athletes who insist on trying to enter into the females category. Because without the female category, where would they be? We've had women who have been told to bow to these male athletes, essentially, to comply, to go along with competing against these athletes. If they didn't, they were accused of being bigots. They were accused of being the ones discriminating. We've told these female athletes to not object, even if it means being punched in the face repeatedly by such male athletes. Women who have spoken out and simply said, this is unfair, have been told to apologize, have been told to beg for forgiveness for daring to object in the first place. Where this whole time, the women were the ones being discriminated against. The women were the ones who had their accolades stolen, their opportunities taken, including women of African descent, many of whom had their whole families depending on them, relying on their success in sports. Those women also missed out. The African Championships, for example, there was a woman who didn't get that title because of the likes of Semenya. The women who shed tears while they were being discriminated against were not racists, bigots. Fair and safe sports for everybody comes about by competing in the correct category. Forcing female athletes to compete against males is not the answer and will never be the answer. 2016 is a clear example of what happens when we take away genetic testing. 3 female athletes were sat down watching their medals being given to men. A 7-year legal battle was finally over. A legal battle that forced Semenya to prove once and for all whether he was actually male or female. That revealed the fact that Semenya is male. A legal battle that highlighted the plight of athletes with DSD. But what has been ignored from the beginning is the plight of the female athletes forced to compete against males. I think the legal battles have gone as far as they can go, considering that no amount of court appearances, no amount of lawsuits being filed is going to turn a man into a woman. And while that fact remains, this person cannot compete in the women's category anymore. That is not discrimination. In fact, it prevents discrimination.
You write about Olympians, Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, Kayla Ledecky, and you say that they weren't questioned when they were breaking record after record after record. Why do you think that you were scrutinized so much? And do you think that they should have been tested as well and questioned?
For me, it wasn't about men being tested. The question is always being about why regulate women's sports? Why women, when they do extraordinary things, genetically, they've been questioned. When a woman do phenomenal, there's something wrong about them. But when men do good, they're from another world.
They're praised.
You know, they are praised. You understand?
But Castor, so the race authorities are standing by their rules that have affected your career. They say they're necessary, reasonable, and proportionate as a way to protect competition for all women.
Yes.
What do you say to that?
It's nonsense, because you can't say, if you say sports for all, and then you start regulating women, but then after that you say you want to act in the best interest of women, all women should be protected first. You should put human rights first. Yes, I understand that if you're threatened by women's success, of course you'll do that.
I certainly have nothing against Semenya. I wish Semenya all the best. In the correct category, World Athletics and even World Boxing have shown a commitment to protecting women's categories. No more female athletes being punched in the face. No more female athletes being sat down while male athletes stand atop the podium. With mandatory sex testing, male athletes can no longer masquerade as women. They know it, and we know it. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think.
That's an interesting thing. I didn't realize that that case came to an end and determined that Castor was in fact a dude, if I'm understanding correctly. That's very interesting. The thing I'm curious about with black women now is I thought when men started to participate in women's sports, I could remember women, period, but black women included, were championing this type of thing at first. When men who identified as women were able to go into the women's bathroom, I could remember women being very happy about that stuff. What's changed now all of a sudden? Let me mix it up. Let me start with Oni on this one. Oni, let's say you.
Yeah. So I was kind of like, I was a little bit surprised, like you said. I didn't see that. That was a little plot twist. But it just sounds like dude has LDE, you know, little dick energy. And apparently, because I don't know how in the world somebody's supposed to not know. You're not supposed to know that you is not a woman for damn 18, 20 years. That's awkward. And they say he's not even intersex. He's just straight up a man, raised to be a woman. And you know, obviously that speaks to, you know, the reality of genetics. But and that's another thing too, where people we asked earlier, what's a man, what's a woman, you know, what's an African? It's like it's genetics, it's all genotypes, it's all genetics, you know. So the dude has Y chromosome or whatever, right? That's, you know, like all I can say is LDE. Because, you know, the thing is this, if you want to pretend to be a woman, that's fine. Or whatever. That's not fine, it's weird. But if you're doing that, why do you need to compete in sports against women? You know what I mean? Like, why do you need to do that? You could just be a woman who doesn't do sports. You know what I mean? Like I'm surrounded by a bunch of women, you know, just generally. None of them are athletes. You know what I mean? Like if you want to pretend, and that's the thing that I don't understand about these transgender people. It's like, if you want to do sports, no, I'm saying if you want to be a woman, whatever, why do you need to be a sportswoman? Why do you need to be an Olympian or some shit? You know what I mean? Why don't you just be a woman who's not on that time? You know what I'm saying? Like who's not on that time? What are you competing against women for? It's just weird. You know, it's just weird. But again, that's just LDE. You know what I mean? It's just LDE. And me personally, I can't understand it. You know, I'm sure most of us can't understand that because, you know, like why are you behaving that way? You know, so this dude says he has testicles and he was running and he was beating these women in their sports and taking gold medals and shit. That's jacked up. You know what I mean? That's just jacked up. Because the thing is that if you're a man, you know, for the most part, you're not going to be, you know, they had there was this match. They said that there was this one white, I think she was a white woman or something, mixed woman or something like that. But there was this one female boxer who was like top tier, you know, top, right? And so they said, okay, we're going to see whether a female boxer could beat a amateur male boxer, not even like a professional male boxer, just an amateur, some dude off the streets, right? Like he had some he had some training, but he wasn't, you know, he was like, you know, 4 and 40, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that kind of thing, right? I mean, I don't remember the record, but what I'm saying is this, the two of them fight, right? And in the first round, it looks like they might be on par. But then the dude realizes this woman don't hit as hard. Like he's dodging and, you know, trying to avoid the punches that she's giving. And so she's getting some points or whatever because he's acting like she's a woman. I mean, she's a man. But once he realized she don't punch that hard, you know, once he realized she can't punch that hard, dude just clears the floor. And it's like this is the best female boxer, you know, as far as, you know, the living memory, right? And some amateur dude could just be. So it's like, dude, if you're a dude, what are you competing against women for on a serious level? You know what I mean? On a serious level, like what are you doing that for? You know, you as a man, you're supposed to say to yourself, look, I know I have an inherent advantage, right? So I'm not gonna deprive you of your spotlight. If you're on that time of being an athletic woman, I'm not gonna deprive you of your spotlight. You know what I'm saying? It's LDE. That's all it is.
So it's safe to say that Castor won't be going to Guyana, huh? The matron's in the chat. He says Castor said he was born without a uterus, so that in and of itself should have told him he was a man. Yeah, I'm all kinds of confused. So it seems like he wasn't born with a uterus, but he wasn't born with a rod at the same time. But he did have testicles that didn't drop. But that's a whole thing. But in any event, that's it from Buana. Buana would say.
Yeah, if he was born with a vagina, I could see where the confusion is, because if he was in a small village, well, she was in a small village, because I still say she, because she was born with a vagina. So I could understand why people would look at it the way. See, here's where the difficulty comes in. Okay, with these white ladies' tears, they was gonna lose that race anyways, because them black Kenyans would have tear them apart. And when you start with this whole idea of sex testing, this is, for me, this is how white women try to win at track and field and stuff like that. The whole next Olympics, the whole Jamaican team, all of them sisters gonna be men all of a sudden, because the white ladies want to win because they train and work so hard. So all of them gonna be men now. This is how white people that shit. But I find it funny. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. If you have this view, keep that same energy. So don't tell me to call Caitlyn Jenner or Bruce Jenner a female when he is in fact a male, because he is a declarant, and all these liberal and conservative white ladies can say, well, we're gonna put in the law, we're gonna make you call him a female. They praise Caitlyn Jenner, praise him, say, but in sports where the white women competing, no, we want our medals now. We want our medals now. So we gonna issue these sex testing rules. Because if this lady if she was born with a vagina, to me, I mean, I understand the whole uterus argument, the biological, but this kind of apparent to me, they trying to white people the shit, and their little maid right here, she is trying to co-sign that stuff. And regardless of the fact, I thought, in my eyes, she is a female. She live as a female. She have female body parts or whatever. Internally, she may have testicles. Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going on inside her. I really don't know. Maybe they did a scientific test. I would leave that to the biologist. In her mind, that's a female person, And and really and truly, they used to do the same thing with Venus Williams. They used to call her a man. These people who in certain positions, especially when they winning or influential, they call Michelle Obama a man. They still calling her a man. They still calling her a man right now to this day. So I am very leery of these white women, liberal women and conservative, trying to white woman this bullshit. Because in the next Olympics, because they won't win, and usually they try to move the rules around or make it enough so to make them competitive. So, like I say, in the next Olympics, they can exclude the whole Jamaican 4x4 team because these people won't win. Obviously, you see the white girl crying already, and you know what that means. I thought, me personally, I look at this person as a female. Like I say, she was born with a biological body part that is consistent with females. Maybe internally she had certain things going on. People would have said that Venus Williams and Serena Williams testosterone levels is high as well. They call them all these things. I'm very leery. When I want to hear from the South Africans and what they think. Enough for the BBC and all these British people commenting on whether she is sexually a male or female. I want to hear from, and the black women in South Africa too. I want to hear from them and what they think about it. Enough with the white women credibility and what they think and their ideas, because white women crying, the fact that they losing in these kinds of sports or whatever. I want to actually hear from the black women in South Africa or the places where she come from. I want to hear something from them. I really do. Or the biologists, to see whether, she would be determined as a female or male. But like I say, keep that same energy. Because if you do it in the sports arena, which is fine, don't tell me I must call Bruce Jenner a female. Keep that same friggin' energy. I don't care what he declare himself as. So I would tell that to the conservative and liberal white women. That same thing. Don't force me to call him when I think he was born a man. Let's keep that same energy. He was born with male body parts. Let's keep that same goddamn energy. That's what I would say. I'll leave it there, Cuckoo.
Yeah, my mind crossed that too with that Bruce Jenner stuff and the whole trans thing. But so far, it seems we have one vote for male, one vote for female. Let's see what our third panelist will add to the discussion. Sister Cheryl, how are you this week?
I'm doing good. Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for coming through, by the way.
Yeah, not a problem. So I came in kind of late, but I just want to make sure the caster that we're referring to right now is this Caster Semenya from South Africa?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, whoever's saying she's a man is ridiculous. This is a woman. And white people were upset because she dogged them in track and field, dogged the females and all of white females in track and field. But it did come out that I think she did at some point mention, listen, if I were to compete against a man, there's no way. I might be faster than you guys, but a man is still going to be faster than me. Even Serena Williams, we know Serena is a woman, right? Serena and Venus. She said that if I were to play Rafael Nadal or one of those other like high up there tennis players, she said I would lose in 15 seconds. So all this talk about it was Caster Semenya. This has been something that white people have been saying for years because they just could not believe that she was so much better than all the other women. All those other ones. They couldn't believe it. They tried to say she was on drugs. Now they try to say she's a man. This isn't new. This is extremely old. That's a woman. She has XX chromosomes. This is a woman. Maybe I don't know what I think I heard somebody say she didn't have a uterus, or I don't know if that's confirmed. Did she confirm that? Is there a video of her saying that? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. She has XX chromosomes. So that kind of ends it right there.
I thought that because Buana mentioned what the biologist would say, I thought the court, which I assume would employ biology, I thought the court said that Caster in fact had XY chromosomes. Did I mishear that? Yeah, Afro-Native World just said she has XY chromosomes.
Yeah. Not only that, but it's Simone, whatever the name was. They're the ones that said that they didn't, like they weren't born with a uterus and they had testicles in their body. You know what I mean? So it's like.
So who's confirming all of this?
Well, they said it. The
white
athletes
people
themselves.
I don't know. Is in this video? Did she say I have XY chromosomes?
Not XY chromosomes. They said I was born with testicles.
Okay.
And that what was the other part? They said they weren't born with a uterus. They were not born with a uterus.
She said that straight from her mouth.
Oh, he said that. Yeah. Unless it's AI, he said it.
Listen. This is not new, so I'm not aware of any. It very much well could be AI because this has been a topic of discussion for the past 20 years. Like this is. I think somebody lying. Somebody is lying.
Yeah, somebody's lying.
Yes.
Somebody is definitely like this isn't new.
So just to quickly recap, from what I understood from this update, is that they went to the courts did blood work, comes back that this person, Caster, has XY chromosome. And interestingly enough, they determined from that Caster is a man. Now, they'll tell you out in the world here there's 122 different genders and all that, but clearly the court is going off the XXXY paradigm, right? But also, somewhere it was mentioned, maybe it was this lady speaking here, or some of the news people from Britain, but someone mentioned that Caster was not born with a uterus, did have testicles that never dropped, from what I understand, and from what it sounds like, had a vagina or some organ that was sexually ambiguous. I don't know how to decipher that. But, and also it seems that Caster was raised as a girl. So But how do we pass through all of this stuff? Any thoughts? Anyone could answer.
Lord God, yes. Okay, so you know how I remember and how I know this is a woman is because I remember when I was in grade school, I think it was, it might have been one of the first couple years of college. We were talking about racism, and Caster Semenya came up, and there's like whole articles explaining the racism behind why they wanted to label her as a man, and she got, and I don't know what's happened since, because this has been a thing for like years. So I don't know what's going on with the media, but this is a woman.
Okay.
It says
I
she
would
has
say
a
this though.
DSD condition.
Yeah, I would
But
say this though.
yeah, go
Just
ahead.
quickly, like the video playing in the background. When I think he had like a yellow shirt on when he was saying, I don't have the right genital. So when he has like a yellow, I think it was a yellow shirt, but when he has that yellow shirt on, you probably should play the audio because I think that's when he says it. That's all.
When is this? When is this taking place? Because what is this, like 20 years ago? Like, when was this?
It was what? No, this case is
This
from 7
video.
years.
No. This video.
This video is probably new. I don't know.
Yeah, I would be careful with that.
Sorry, my computer was acting up. This is from a month ago.
Yeah. I'd be very careful, especially today. I don't know. I'm not saying it ain't real. I'm just saying.
Maybe I didn't think. But yeah, I mean, as far as look, if this person had two X chromosomes, I'd be completely on the side of this is a woman. This is blah blah blah.
Okay,
But
so if I could just interject really quickly. Okay, she is a woman, right? She has XX chromosomes, but she also has a condition that's called DSD, which means she has XY chromosomes that cause her to have a higher testosterone level, and nothing else. It doesn't cause her to have a heavier bone density. It doesn't
no, hold on,
cause
what?
her.
Wait, you said she has XY chromosomes or XX chromosomes? I'm confused.
Listen, she's a woman.
Uh-huh.
She's a woman. She has XX chromosomes that identify her as a woman. That's a woman. That's what a woman is. She has a condition called DSD. Someone just mentioned it in the chat, which causes her to have higher levels of testosterone than a normal person. But that doesn't make her a man. It's a condition. But she doesn't have higher bone density like men do in order to run faster. She doesn't, she does, like, it's hard to explain if you don't know biology, but she just has a condition.
Okay. Well, I mean,
That's
all
it.
right. All right. Well,
And
look,
that was
I
disputed for
agree.
many years.
I would agree if we didn't just watch that video that seemed to have the counter evidence. But yeah, I mean, it's
But having XY chromosomes that identify you as having higher testosterone doesn't mean you're not a woman. The XY chromosomes are, both things are true. The XY chromosomes, because it's a condition, cause her to have higher levels of testosterone. That doesn't mean she doesn't have XX chromosomes.
okay. Hold on a second.
Does that make
So
sense?
no, all right. So like you said, like if I were to study biology, so like you said, I'm probably not as good as biology as other people here, right? But what I would say is, you get an X chromosome from your mother, and you get a Y chromosome from your father. Oh no, sorry, you either get a X chromosome or a Y chromosome from your father. So if she got a Y chromosome from her father, she's a man. Or sorry, he's a man. But they cannot have a Y chromosome if they are a woman.
Yes, but if you have a but if you have a biological deficiency, anything can happen. There are some people who are born intersex. There are some people who have
Yeah,
Klinefelter
they're
disease.
saying this
What I'm
person was
saying
not
is
intersex.
okay, I know that, but what I'm saying is that some people are born with Klinefelter's disease. What I'm saying is that sometimes there are biological inefficiencies and deficiencies, and this is hers.
To have
I
a
guess
Y
what's
chromosome?
important to mention
That's
here.
it. It's really that simple.
I guess what is important to mention here, but I didn't hear them mention this in the report. But I'll throw it out there. There is in genetics what's called a chimera, where an individual can have both XX and XY chromosomes.
Exactly.
I don't think you classify them as male or female. I think they're just called chimeras. But they didn't really. I don't know if they said that here. It sounded like they said they did genetic testing, and this person Castor came back as XY. I don't remember them saying XX at all. Does Buana remember?
I don't. Cool. This I am out of this is way out of my league, brother. You know, I leave it to you and Cherilise to figure this out.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
It's very simple. She's still a woman. She can still have children. She still has a period. Like, I mean,
No, she doesn't have
yeah,
those. Oh, he
that's
doesn't
what it
have
says
them.
here.
No, she
That's-
doesn't have a uterus.
That's what it says here. Someone's lying. Someone's
All
lying
right,
on me
how
on
about
social
this,
media.
Koku? Well,
Because this
maybe
is
if you
not a
want to
new
spend more
issue.
time on this subject, but maybe you just pull up the court findings or the court conclusion and search XY chromosome. I think that. Wait, what's this say right here? Oh, they're saying that he doesn't have this. Yeah, and I think
Okay, it's a
maybe they're gonna play the audio. I guess it might not have been a yellow shirt. It might have been something else. But yeah, I think they're gonna play the audio of him talking and saying, "Hey, so what if I don't have that?" I think maybe you see the.
This was a couple
Talking
months
about a
ago.
woman
Something
who is intersex. We are talking about somebody who is male, who has a condition that only affects males. Even those born with differences of sex development are still either male or female. Semenya has even admitted to having male anatomy. And what does he think about these facts? What was his response? So what?
You know, the medical terms, what they tell me, you know, my testosterone, you know, being born, you know, without the uterus, you know, being born with internal testicles, those don't make me less a woman. It's just the differences that I was born with, and I embrace them.
Because they say I have advantage, you know, in high testosterone. Of course, I do have it. So what?
This person knows he is male. Most of these.
Yeah, so that was the where he's saying.
First of all, the voice. I mean, if y'all want to go with that, that's fine. I mean, I feel like for the atmosphere that we're in right now, it's very convenient for somebody to bring this back up when it was an issue years and years ago. And I don't know if she still competes. Maybe she does. It's very convenient in this atmosphere. Is she not competing
She stopped
anymore?
competing. No,
When?
she stopped competing. This is a part of why there was the court case, which they just concluded a month ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's no longer competing. So I just think it's very convenient for this type of thing to come up, especially in the climate that we're in with this whole LGBT thing. I think it's very convenient. I think, okay. I think there are genetic mutations, but I don't know. It's so many things. Like it just seems a little odd to me. If it's true, then it's true. But I guess. I mean, it's just this. First of all, the voice is an AI. I don't know if this is a real person. This sounds like an AI voice describing her, and it's not. I don't know what's real and what's not real. I'm gonna be honest with you straight up today. I don't know what's real and what's not sometimes with this whole AI thing. I've seen AI videos and stuff that you think is real and it's not. So I don't know. It just seems extremely convenient to bring up something like this now when this was like an issue back in the was it the 80s or the early 90s?
No,
It's just
it was. They said it was 7 year. Like they had a 7 year legal battle. So I think the reason why the timing is because the legal battle just ended, and he lost. So that's just the timing. It's like like people talk about George Floyd's killer after he sentenced. Like because it's not like what I mean. So it's like this was an issue. They sued the court or whatever. The court sued them. Blah blah blah. And then 7 years later, it's resolved, and it's like, okay, this person was a man all along, and so it's not like they like resurrected it. It's like this person was fighting a legal battle for 7 years, and they lost, and so now it's news. You know what I mean? But like that's the thing. It's like you said. I mean, I understand being skeptical. I would usually be skeptical too, but based off of the video that we saw, based off of the evidence shown, it's more than likely that this person is a man, And
So are we saying that she or he, whatever you want to call, intentionally deceived the sports arena to compete? Are we saying that? Are
No,
we
it
saying
seems
this?
like they were socialized believing that they were a woman, but they were a man
Socialized
all along.
where? Socialized where?
Well, wherever they were, like basically, it seems like this person, like I said, LDE. They had little dick energy. Basically, this person likely had their like they didn't have their external. They didn't have a penis, maybe I don't know, but they had their testicles in their body. Like I don't know if you guys know the image of how a human being is develops over time, but like basically your testicles fall out of your body. You know what I mean? And then form, like your genitals start forming inside of your mother's whatever. This person's genitals probably never fully developed, and then at birth they were probably categorized as a woman, right? Because they had like internal genitals, but it wasn't a vagina. Had no uterus. They just had like disconfigured genitals, and from that they were raised as a woman, but they were a man because of the XY chromosome situation. So there's a person with malformed genitals who probably believe that they're a woman, but if you were to do a biological test, a genetic test, they were actually a man. And I think the argument that they couldn't win a sports contest against another man is like, yeah, that absolutely. You probably couldn't win a sport. Like I couldn't win a sports contest against most male athletes either. and I damn sure couldn't if I was just training with women. But I don't see much about that being a counter argument for this person. But my thing is that yes, this person, most likely they didn't intentionally try to deceive anybody. They just were deceived, and maybe not for any sort of bad reasons. They probably just had malformed, genitals for whatever reason. And based off of the malformed genitals, basically not having a penis or not having a visible penis at the time of their childhood, they were likely miscategorized as a woman or a girl and lived their lives that way, believing they were a girl when they weren't. This person admits to being impotent. This person admits to not having a uterus. This person admits to having testicles in their body. I
have testicles in my body too. They're called ovaries. So I don't know. That's why I say I don't know the extent. There's not enough like conclusive evidence to show that she was beating all these women because it's a man. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because a woman having elevated testosterone doesn't alone make them a man.
Yeah, but it's not a woman. That's the point. It's not a woman.
She compete? But can she compete with men?
Most men can't. I can't compete with men. Doesn't
No. We're not talking about you. We're talking about athletes. We're talking about, can she compete with world-class male athletes the way she competes with the female athletes? Can she compete with the male
Can
athletes.
she get on the top? Can she be
I don't think
number
so.
one, gold medal? No, she can't be
No,
a gold medalist.
that's my
She can
point. That's my
compete,
point.
but most men can't be gold
If
medalists.
they're but if they're taking her to court over the fact that she's beating all of these women because she has high level, if they're just basing off of high levels of testosterone, then they don't have a case. Do you understand? Because if that was the case, then they would just put her with the men in the Olympic sports. But I'm gonna end it there.
On the cases, they have a case. The reason why it went to case, when they tested her, she had high levels of testosterone. Remember, she was beating people like crazy at one point. And this wasn't in the 80s. This was just about 10 years ago. She was beating people so bad. They showed one of the races and the white women trying to talk around it. She was beating people so bad. And first of all, people looked at her or him. I was like, wait a minute. And then when they did a ordinary test, which is what this whole swab thing was, they when they did a blood test at first, they recognized that there's high levels of testosterone, and they quote unquote leaked it, which was kind of anti-black too, by the way. They quote unquote leaked it. And then when they stopped her from running races, and I think Oni was talking about this person right here, who was just on the screen, who was the boxer, who came under scrutiny maybe 2-3 years ago. 2 years ago. But when they went to the case, when she filed the injunction to have her be able to, or him, or whatever the fuck it is, to be able to perform in races again, well, a part of that will require, they're going to scrutinize you biologically. And when they did the scrutiny, they found, no, this person has XY chromosomes, which is why I said earlier, it's interesting that these same people will push this fluidity and non-gender and there's more than two genders and all this shit, but when they want to get you, when they want to get at you, they damn sure go to that biological playbook and say, hey, you got XY, you're a guy. I think that's a deep part of the conversation there as well. You know what I mean? Yeah, like Trigger Happy said in the chat, it's a case of white people being weak.
Right, exactly.
When they couldn't beat them, they scrutinized it. And as it turns out, apparently Castor didn't know either because Castor was raised as a girl. When Castor was born, they looked and they said, well, that's not a dick. I guess that's a girl. And it was raised as a girl until puberty hit and some shit changed. You know, so Castor wasn't doing what the white boys do. Them white boys who be going into boxing and racing and running, all that kind of stuff, they're weak. They're trying to avoid being men. But this individual wasn't trying to avoid it. This individual really thought, this is why I don't like the black woman who's commenting it. Clearly, this Castor went into this thing thinking that they were female. And then all this other stuff happened that exposed that, you know, genetically, you're a dude. You just have a syndrome where you have kind of mixed match parts, etc. And that's just, you know, that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't think she was intentional. I don't think she was. Well, I don't think he was. You know what? Because I can't fight the science. I don't think he was being intentional in what he did. I really don't. I think that it was just he was. Most
history.
Athletes are not biologists. You know, athletes their job is to run. So I mean, I really don't believe that it was intentional. And like I say, I don't want to fight the science. So I'll just leave it to the scientists and the biologists in the room to kind of figure it out, man. Because
hold on a second. I have a question. Because Afro Native says this person had breasts. Did y'all see breasts on this person?
How's that relevant?
Nah, she looked like she could dunk a basketball.
How's that relevant?
He looked
Dude
like he could.
Lady look like a dude, man.
I mean, some people say it look like a dude. You know how I mean, okay, so it looks like she went to court over the fact that she wouldn't take medication to artificially reduce her hormone levels, and she refused to take that because her testosterone was naturally high. So she said, I don't want to take that medication because this is natural. So they took her to court. That's what that sounds like. I mean, is that what the case was based on? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think for this we probably have to look into it, but I can't actually search right now because
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. That's what she went to court over. The fact that she didn't want to take medication that would reduce her naturally high testosterone levels.
Does it say anything about the XY chromosome stuff?
It says
search
absolutely
chromosomes.
nothing. It says
search
absolutely nothing.
search the
Hold
word
up.
chromosome in the transcript, in the court transcript. Search the word chromosome.
Okay. Okay. So she has the typical male XY chromosome pattern, but also female physical traits and high levels of naturally occurring testosterone. DSD conditions are sometimes called intersex conditions. But she's not a
Yeah, so it sounds
transgender.
like-
She's not a transgender, despite her case of often being conflated with the divisive debate over the
And this
participation.
is in the court documents?
This is in a court document.
Yeah,
That's
that sounds like
a dude. That's a dude, Amo. You got to give it up. That's a
Yeah, you
dude.
gotta give it up.
I mean, you got to give it up, Amo. That's a dude, man.
You know, it's a dude, man. Dude looks like a lady. That's it. That's it. Dude looks like a lady. He doesn't even look like a lady to me. He looks like KRS-One, but like KRS-One lost weight. But dude looks like a lady.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we hit that one there. Unfortunately, that was the. But the point is 2 points. I don't think that Castle was being deceitful. I don't think Castle was just trying to be a bitch and be a dude who was running against women and beating up on women and all that kind of stuff. So I'll give Castle that. And the second point is clearly, unfortunately, it turned out that Castle is a dude biologically, but clearly these white folks went in on Castle because Castle was beating the shit out of him, you know? Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 for time's sake. Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 states the brutal honesty needed in assessing the reality of Nigeria as a hyper-tribalist, Berlinist state. So I just want to also point out that I was going to join this with another prompt from Jose. Jose had a prompt that said, looking at Nigerians begging to be had, the foundation of foundational Black Americans can still be found in Africa if you think of it. And in quotes, he put sarcasm. And it took us to, the link took us to a Twitter tweet that was deleted, I guess, or removed. So I can't show that one. But the prompt that I added it with, the brutal honesty needed in assessing the reality of Nigeria as a hyper-tribalist, Berlinist state, that does come with 2 attachments, and so those I will show. So I just want to let Jose know, try to put your prompt up, but the attachment didn't work. So let me get the first attachment that takes us to TikTok. By the way, this brother here, so I think Anthony McPhail, shout out to Anthony McPhail. I think he pointed out this brother is the son of a Nigerian minister or prime minister or something like that, who lives in the States here. We have discussed one of his prompts before. You guys in the chat, let me know what's his background here. But I think I think he's from Nigeria with a parent who's like a general or something of that nature. But we'll watch the video, and then I'll play the second attachment after.
Has played in shaping Nigeria. A lot of played in shaping Nigeria as it is today. So I'm going to go ahead and share this story. Of course, this is definitely going to cause problems between me and my family, but I don't give a shit. So let's go. Okay, to start off, this is my dad, Yakubu Bako, former governor of Akwa Ibom in Nigeria, and this is his Wikipedia page. So this is my father right here giving a story to a newspaper in Nigeria. Let's go ahead and check that article, shall we? It says, Colonel Yakubu Bako served as the military governor of Akwa Ibom State and under the administration of late General Sani Abacha. In this interview, he spoke about the projects he executed in Bakassi, which former President Olusegun Obasanjo conceded to Cameroon, and how he made efforts to install MKO Abiola as president, what he knows about the alleged coup of Lieutenant General Dia, and other interesting issues. Says here, I was successful in the military. I never missed any promotion. When I returned to Nigeria, I was posted to Lagos to oversee the 19th Battalion during the 1993 crisis. So this is very important because back then, Nigeria, there were coups everywhere, left and right. And if you wanted to do a successful coup in Nigeria, you had to have the guy who was in control of the 19th Mechanized Battalion, which they put my father in. And by the way, the person who put him there was my father's godfather, some guy named Sani Abacha. But let's continue. Says, while we were there, somebody approached me saying we should make a plan. We should plan to topple Shonekon and make Abiola president. So yes, while Ernest Shonekon was then interim president of Nigeria, someone approached my dad as if you want to take over power in Nigeria, you need to speak to the guy running 19. He's the first person you need to talk to. So they came to talk to my dad about, putting Abiola as president. And my dad did what he did. He went to go see his godfather. Who is his godfather? Abacha. So he told Abacha about the coup, and Abacha said, you know what? That's a fucking good idea. Let's make this shit happen. Says here, you were a high-ranking military officer, but you made efforts to install a civilian as president. What informed your decision? Why were you trying to join politics? He said, yes, there was too much tension in the land at the time. That was when, so people that don't know, Nigeria was trying to transition from military to a civilian presidency, and Abiola won the election. After winning, he was denied the election. He was denied the presidency. One of the main reasons he was denied presidency, I believe that's one of the main reasons, is he promised that the first thing he will do when he gets into office is apply for reparations for Black Americans. Next question is, as a military officer, you were not afraid to meet with civilians, blah, blah, blah. He said, yeah, not afraid. Says, you made efforts to install Abiola as president, but at the end, it was Abacha that took over. Don't you think you were being used to achieve someone's personal goals? He said, I won't say both of them used me because Abiola was both sincere when we started. That there was sincerity from Abiola's family because they really wanted him to be president. Long story short, the coup was agreed for. They said, let's go ahead and make this shit happen. It worked out perfectly. Everybody was expecting Abacha to give a speech on the radio and make an announcement and say, we've taken over power for Abiola. Instead, he said, we've taken over power and I'm the president. So as part of the guy who took over power is my father's literal godfather. Like his kids, we grew up together. They took us to school every day. Me, Mahmoud Sani, Gumsu, Reki, all the Abachas. We went to school in the same car every day. So that happened, and my dad was rewarded giving governor of Akwa Ibom. They sent him to go take Bakassi from Cameroon, which he did. He took Bakassi back from Cameroon, and after that, he was sent to NECON, which was Nigerian Electoral Commission. Back then, Abacha wanted to become a civilian president, so he put my father in charge of the logistics. He put his boy to make sure everything goes smooth. This part is very important. So he's talking about his life in NECON, right? In the Electoral Commission. He says, I worked there for almost a year. When I got out to the commission, one of the major issues was ballot boxes. So I introduced transparent ballot boxes. The contract was awarded to the person who went to China to bring the first set of ballot boxes. I created an office for myself at the airport in Abuja so that the trailers would come and offload and go for the sensitive materials which we were to print overseas. I told Abacha that since he trusted me, I wanted our security and printing office to print it and let me be responsible for it. So a lot of you don't know this. There was a time during Abacha's there was a time when my dad was basically given the security, minting, and printing of Nigeria. So when I tell you I grew up really fucking rich, a lot of you would not fucking understand. When my father took over from Bakassi in Akwa Ibom, Nigeria was under sanctions. So all the oil we sold was on the black market. When I tell you guys that you guys who are praying for Israel to come in and destroy, there's no one in my bloodline that will suffer the consequences of your decision. We got so much money, we will run the fuck out of the country and go anywhere. You don't like it, but it's the fucking fact. I have no reason to add this part, but I just did anyways. He's talking about my mom, his Bachama wife. My mom is Bachama. I'm not even a full fucking Hausa guy. I am basically 25% Okanyali, 25% Hausa, and 50% Bachama. So if anything, I am more Bachama than I am Hausa. But yes, my father's family did not like the fact that my father met a Bachama woman and married her. They wanted to ship him a Hausa bride, and they are 100% responsible for my parents' divorce. Like a lot of Nigerian families, he tried. She couldn't do it. After years of harassment from my father's side of the family, she left. But yeah, I just want to add this. My father's side of the family is responsible for my parents' divorce. So yes, my father is responsible for Abiola's coup. Abiola came to him. He was the one that set it up. He was the guy. He was the architect of it. But his boss, Abacha, had to be the face of it. So my dad did everything. Abacha took control. Abacha took power. My father was sent to Bakassi. My dad took Bakassi back from Cameroon, and Obasanjo ended up giving it to Bakassi. By the way, do y'all want to know why my father ended up having fallen out with Abacha? When he was put as NECON, he had one job. During his trip, like state to state, he was supposed to be checking every state to make sure everything was okay. He was supposed to end up while he was in Jos, while he was in Jos, Olusegun Obasanjo was supposed to somehow die. My father refused to do that. He refused to kill Obasanjo on Abacha's behalf, and that's why they had the falling out, which for my dad kind of worked out, because right after Abacha died, the next person who became president was the guy he was supposed to kill. And yeah, my family has played a very significant role in Nigeria, and a lot of you don't know, but I'm just coming here to share it. So when I say the things I say, I have more access than most of you would possibly realize. And growing up, I was that one kid that always wanted to hang around his dad when dad had visitors, unless he explicitly kicked me out. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to everything they're saying. And he always used to, like, I was that one son. But anyways, I just wanted to share, man. My family is very pivotal in Nigeria's direction. My dad was responsible for Abacha. Some low-key, he was kind of responsible for Abiola's death, because if he didn't accept that coup thing, it wouldn't have happened. He was also responsible. He's also the reason that Obasanjo ended up becoming president, because he refused to kill him. Now you know.
Sorry, my mute is taking long. Yeah, so right there he tells us who he is, who his relations are in Nigeria. And as Trigger was pointing out in the chat, I saw this week as well. He said that he pointed out this week that the Secret Service came to his house about some videos he had concerning American generals in Nigeria, one of which we actually discussed on this show. This was the brother who said, you know, if the generals are coming to wage war in Africa, then Africans should essentially raise war against their families. I remember Buano was running cover for them. But Trigger also mentions, it's important to point out, tribalism is the most irrational thing in Africa because everyone intermixed all the time. I'm also to say every ethnic group splinters and intermix. He says also he made this video because he is making it clear that Nigerians are calling for America to invade the country, and is pointing out that nothing will happen to him. This prompt also came with a second attachment. Let me make sure my sound is working, because StreamYard tends to shut my sound down after a while. Looks like it's working. So we'll watch this second video from him, and then we'll discuss it all.
Nigerians are some useless ass people. In my comments, talking about your father is one of the people that destroyed Nigeria. Yes, I'm bragging because your useless ass parents let my stealing ass parents steal it. The fuck you gonna do about it? So I'm making this video right now because a couple of days ago I uploaded a video talking about the role my dad played in Nigeria's history, and some famous Nigerian blogger reposted it, and a bunch of new people came in my comments, found me, and of that, I kid you not, there are at least 200 messages. I got more than 200, but at least 200 messages of people begging me for money. There's one that lives in Germany that wants me to bring his brother to America. I don't even know how the fuck y'all think. But there's a whole group that's in my chat talking about, oh, he's here bragging about his father's money. Your father's one of those that destroyed Nigeria. Yes, I'm bragging about it because your worthless ass parents sat the fuck back and let my stealing ass parents do what the fuck they wanted to do. What were your parents doing? They were sitting down in church. Oh, Holy Ghost fire, you go better. Jesus will save us. The other ones were there. Imam, Ya Allahu Akbar, waking up at 2 a.m. Instead of you to get up and do what the fuck you needed to do. No. So first things first, let's make something clear. I haven't seen my father since I was 20. I left my house at 20. The last time I set eyes on my parents, my own dad, was in 2000. The year 2000 was the last time I saw my father. 2000. That picture I uploaded of the video I was talking about, that picture is the most recent picture I have of him. That's the most recent image I have of him. If he's older than that, I don't know. And that's one. Two, there is text messages between me and my father right now. I'm pretty sure in his phone, and where I get mad at him, and like, how am I going to explain it? I curse him out. And I know it's not something you want to hear from you hear from Nigerian parents. You know how many times I've texted that man, you have no right to talk to me. You're a thief. You've stolen Nigerian people's money. Yes, I am that child. But I am mad now because I realize as mad as I am at my parents and my family and what they did, I'm looking at the other Nigerians, you people, and I'm realizing y'all are worse. Because I was 10 years old when my father became governor of Akwa Ibom, when Abacha took power. I was 10. I remember we went to government house. Since then, I remember I started to see who men, grown-ass men coming. A 10-year-old child, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18, 19. Ogami. Why? Because my father stole your money? Instead of you to do the needful and stand up and get your shit back and fucking stand for your rights. No, you want to sit back, Ogami, you fucking worthless pieces of shit. And now the children of those people saying Ogami on my comment talking about your father's a thief. Yeah, because your father's a bum bitch that all he does is beg for shit that's supposed to be his. If you've been on Twitter during COVID, I was on Twitter during COVID, and this is how fucked up Nigerians are. My business was doing good around COVID. So I decided to start a community. I said, you know what? $250 a week is not going to hurt me. It's not going to kill me. So this is what I'm going to do. I decided every week I'm going to give one person $250 to start a business, a small business, something small in Nigeria, right? The idea here is we build a community that, we start to bring business or whatever. And then eventually the idea was after a year of me doing that, the people that I had funded who have received support would have built their companies to where after a year they can chip in to my 250 so that we can build a community. Like that was the plan. I brought the money. I did everything. The first person that won the fucking 250, they came with an idea, popcorn. I said, you know what, popcorn is good because a low entry barrier, like cost to start the business is cheap. But we did everything, business plan, got idea. I sent the 250. That motherfucker deleted their Twitter account. The first person I sent money to so we could start this business idea, so we could start this movement, took the 250, deleted their Twitter. Nigerians are fucking, so you're in my comments, your father is this, your father is this, so is your fucking father. And the worst part is Nigerians don't want change. Nigerians want the opportunity to become the oppressors. Nigerians don't want, because you know what, I'm tired of this. All I'm here to say is y'all are collective pieces of shit. Don't come in my comment talking about, well, I haven't seen that man in 20 fucking years, more than 20 years. But at the end of the day, the fact is the fact. God forbid he falls and dies today. I'm a rich motherfucker. The only way I got inheritance, it's your fucking taxes. I don't want him to die. There's no way I want my father to die. I want my father to live long enough to see what I'm going to become in life. I want him to live long and see my children, my grandchildren, if God will it. I don't want him to die. But the truth of the matter is, if today, God forbid, that man dies, I'm rich as fuck. It's your inheritance, and I ain't using shit on you motherfuckers because given the opportunity, none of you want. And Nigeria is a country of fucked up people who are blaming everybody else for the shit. I don't know. Y'all are collective pieces of shit. Don't come in my comment talking shit. Fuck you. You don't like it? Suck my dick. So the key takeaway here is I am not a Nepo baby in the way you guys think. At age 20, I left home. I'm the black sheep, as you could tell. Hausa guy, dreadlocks, nose ring, all of that. I'm definitely the black sheep. Sorry. So the only thing your taxes did was send me to school. Now the rest of my siblings, that's a completely different story. Those are the real nipple babies. 1, 2. I don't have money. I left home at 20, and since I left home, I swear on my life, I have not received a 10 cent, 1 kobo. Let's use naira. 1 kobo. My father's wealth. 1 kobo. Your government money, your taxes, 1 kobo of your money has not touched me since I turned 20, since I left my father's house. That's 2. 3, y'all collective pieces of shit. You don't want change. You want the opportunity. I've seen it. You will be in the neighborhood. You see your neighbor who you lived with in the same neighborhood get up, run for office, buy 4 houses around his house, just break down his house, build a mansion, ignore the whole neighborhood, and then fix only the road that leads to his house. And every time he comes home, oh God. In an ideal world, he does that. He just put a target on himself. Every time he burn him. Just don't hurt my family. We the good ones. But when you're ready for change, you won't sit on the internet in my DM begging me for money. When you're ready for change, you see Madagascar, but the thing is, Nigerians are not going to do what needs to be done because y'all are all cowards. Every last one of you are collective cowards. You can, fella get live away your grandmama never no fit touch. Y'all are cowards because what it takes to stand up and fight for your rights, you don't have what it takes. None of you, you're all cowards. Y'all are some begging ass niggas. All you want to do is sit at home and beg. Holy Ghost fire, Jesus, give your pastor money. Worthless pieces of shit. So everything that's happening to you, you deserve it.
All right, my man read them the riot act after apparently his parents stole from him. But I think this brings the conversation kind of full circle in a sense. We're back to the conversation in a sense about men standing up as men, man. So as you want to say about his impoliteness, but he's standing up as a man and telling you guys, your parents didn't stand up as men. I find that a very interesting conversation. And again, he's in America somewhere because the Secret Service just rolled up on him the other day when he had that to say about, I forget the black general's name, Michael something, who was supposed to go and invade Traore and them. He said, go take out his show since he's coming for yours. So I find it very, very interesting that we've come back to this, and I'm curious to hear what our panelists have to say. Now, earlier, Cheryl in the chat said a couple of things. She said because they're constantly in a state of survival combined with stark Christian beliefs. Cheryl, what would you like to say to expand on that thought on what you just saw?
I'm not mad at him for feeling that way. I feel like at some point, like, we all kind of get that way when we see the, oh, Holy Ghost, Jesus gonna save me. Da, da, da. We all get that way because it's frustrating because we have all the power to say no to that stuff, to say no to neo-colonialism, and to kick these white people out of our nations. But it's something psychological that holds us back. And I know it's frustrating, and it's something that I feel like I fight with myself a lot because it's easy to say, oh, you ain't shit. I'm sorry for cursing. I didn't mean to curse. I'm sorry. But it's easy to tell them, oh, you ain't shit, and you guys ain't worthless. You can't stand up for yourself. Blah blah blah. It's easy to say that, but we gotta be patient. Seriously, we seriously gotta be patient with our people. I mean, everybody's not going to get it, but it's I think sometimes it's hard to know where to start when the indoctrination is so deep. But I do get what he's saying. I totally understand. I'm not like mad at him or anything because me and my husband were just looking at this about Nigeria a few days ago about how their they just made a move to reverse a 3-year policy. So that this policy mandated the use of indigenous language in early education, but they canceled it in favor of English because the government claimed it failed to deliver results, and it led to poor performance in national exams, like globally. So Nigeria, it's during a time period when a lot of countries are they're getting rid of those colonial standards, and they're reintroducing their indigenous languages. It's like Nigeria is doing the opposite, and it's just a testament to how when you follow the West, this is what happens, and you want to compete with other people. So I see totally what he's getting at, but we just got to work with what we got. Like, I don't even know what to say, because that's a rough one. But yeah, I'll just keep it there.
I appreciate that, Sister Cheryl. Sister Cheryl says we gotta kind of. I just forgot exactly how she said it, but we gotta kind of give our people some leeway, I guess, is a way to say it. But haven't we given our people a lot of leeway as it is? Let me hear from Oni on this one. Oni would say.
Yeah, I was reading the comments, and it looks like Trigger thinks I was going to say something that I wasn't even thinking about. Because the dude just, he like we were talking about before, when you're a man, he's saying his father had a stepfather who was like, let's help this other dude to become president or some shit. And the stepfather then said, or the godfather then said, nah, matter of fact, I'm gonna take it. You know what I mean? That's just like sometimes that's the thing too. It's like no disrespect to this dude's father, right? Although, he disrespects his father, and his father's not that respectful or respectable. But what I'm saying is, the other dude, and that's to say, like it's not a good thing for black folk to be grabbing power in their own nations and not, settling for democratic and blah blah blah. Although I'm not really a democratic guy, but you know what I'm saying. But at the same time, you got to recognize the dude who says, no, I'm going to be in charge. Because the thing that we don't see in the Western world is black folks saying, no, I'm going to be in charge. Okay? We don't see that. We don't see that. And so, as bad as what the guy was saying was that, look, and that's the thing that we got to realize too. A lot of people, most people are gonna be the little fish. Now me, I have a problem where the language barrier is too freaking steep. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to get spiritual in a sense. You all know I'm not that spiritual, but I'll say the ancestors gave me a alley-oop, but I don't have the language, so the language barrier is kind of jacking me up. But that's fine because I like the language. I mean, I want to learn the language because, I'm really not about this English life, Either way, and that's a little tangent. But what I'm saying is that, other brothers have not even gonna say brothers because these guys, whatever, but other people have that. They say to themselves, how can I get mine? Whereas a lot of people are like, oh man, look at this guy. They praying for change. They praying for change. And that's the big problem, because there's the real world. And this is why I write about, you guys know I'm an author. I write about my books. I say, look, there's the real world and there's the reality and there's imagination. And the trouble with us is that, imagination is okay to an extent, but you have to seal yourself in the real world. You have to seal yourself in the material world. And the people who understand that, they are running the world. Or, put it as Garvey said it, never forget that intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden. Say what you will about this guy's father. His father has wealth for his children and his descendants. Say what you will. And sometimes I remember, because sometimes people be like, hey, only, a lot of us don't have the means to be in Africa. if we were to compare bank statements, I would say a lot of y'all have more money than me. The difference is how you're using it. The difference is how you're using it. Like for instance, I come from a family. My father, good. Like he was like an engineer type stuff, right? He had good money, but of course he's not gonna be, he's not gonna be traveling to Africa. You know what I mean? Like if you decide to live your life in a way where, if like you have to say to yourself, are you gonna be the master or are you gonna be the servant? And a lot of black folks say, I'm going to be the servant. I'm going to be a damn good servant. I'm going to be the best servant. If you pay attention to black media, in fact, if you listen to what black TV shows are telling you, they're telling you, yeah, man, you got to work twice as hard to get half as much or something like that. Yeah, they say that's what servants say. You know, like that's what servants say. You got to work twice as hard to get half as much inside the big house. Yeah, you're never gonna get as much as the owner of the house. You know, if you're gonna get as much as the owner of the house, you have to work twice as hard, but you're still gonna get half as much. That's all it means. But see, me, I said to myself, I'm not trying to live no servant life. I'm not trying to be nobody's servant. You know, I was inspired by I don't know if it's a real quote, but I was inspired by Nat Turner. You know, and I don't know if it's a real quote, but he said, I will never be of service to anyone as a slave. That's what he said. That's what they said he said. That was his motivation. I take that too. I say, I'll never be of service to anyone as a slave. Now, of course, I'm not saying I ain't never worked a job in my life, but I try not to. You know what I'm saying? I try not to. You know, I mean, I have to. Yeah, sure, but I try not to. But most black folks say, look, I'm going to be the best damn slave there is. And they never get the position. You know, so what this dude was saying toward the end, where he's like, look, man, your parents ain't doing shit. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Now he started mixing up. He had a little bit of confusion of blah, 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 blah. But what I'm saying is that if we have to really come to terms with, look, Africa is for the taking. You see what I'm saying? Like this ties everything back together. Guatemala's for the taking. America's for the taking. You know, Tanzania, Ghana. But it really depends on, are there men who are looking to take it? Because if there are not men looking to take it, then guess what? It's not going to be in the hands of the people. You see what I'm saying? It's not going to be in the hands of anybody except for the men who are willing. And that's what it is.
Yeah, Oni, that's some good stuff right there. That's some real good stuff. It really makes you, at least for me, it made me sit back in my seat for a second, like, you know, we really have a problem here. Like, we are trying to be the best servant. And unfortunately, what happens, a lot of people, and I think Juana mentioned this earlier, a lot of people ain't really just looking to get up and move where we could be the top dog because of the uncertainty. What's the other term I use? I said, Brother Bakari, them said it. Forgot the term now, but yeah, that's a kind of a sadly sobering commentary. I do appreciate that, though. With that said, Juan, you heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you to all of it?
Yeah. I think that all the brothers, Oni and Cheryl had good words, but for me, I see this gentleman as a fool. He is putting himself out here. Do you know there are many children of wealthy, influential people that come to America all the time? One of our former prime ministers, his child lives, in the United States, and he's a multi-millionaire. You don't intentionally make yourself a target. They will never come on the internet and talk about how the prime minister of the country steal resources, and you're always fools for not trying to capture the resources that he would have stolen. Doesn't he know that there are Nigerians who live in the United States of America? Probably some people who know where he lives. And they say, yeah, I'm a fool and I'm a piece of shit. Okay, mask and gloves. and then kidnap him and say, well, you may not have gotten money from your father, but we're gonna ransom you out to him, and we're gonna get rich because you tell the world that you have unlimited resources on the internet. And you come to America where there are more guns than our people, and you telling this publicly on the internet. Don't you know there are 100, it's almost like a million Nigerians there? You don't think that one of his enemies know exactly where you live, and you come on the internet, show your face to the world, and tell all this stuff? I'm like, they're even white boys. They're even white boys who masquerading as ICE agents. They'll throw you into a van and ransom you off to your wealthy, unlimited, resourceful father in Nigeria and say, well, listen, if you want to see us, we know you don't like your son, he's a black sheep, but if you want to see him again, we're gonna cut his fingers off and we can ship it to you to Nigeria to know that we ain't playing around. I mean, he is openly making himself a open target. Who does that? Who does that? I'm telling the Nigerians that they pieces of shit and bragging about how much money he could possibly get. Listen, they don't have to wait until your father's dead. They could just threaten your father to take your life first. You know, you in the United States, I understand why he's a black sheep, because he's not thinking, he's not practicing situational awareness. He coming on the internet and letting the world know that your father have unlimited resources. Are you fucking crazy? Are you crazy? You know, I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know if he have a mental disorder or if he's a weird person. There are many wealthy European children who send their children to school, Chinese who send this to school in the Americas, but they would never come on the internet and say the things that he is making himself a target. For what reason? I don't know why. He's daring to say, y'all ain't do shit when my father was stealing all his money. You don't think some Nigerians in America take umbrage with that? And I'll have you jacked up in a minute in the United States? He is, I don't know.
Buana.
Yes,
To be fair, a lot of things happen to black folks, and black folks don't do nothing about it. So I think he's just come to that conclusion that, shit, y'all ain't doing nothing about, let's say, George Zimmerman. What's his name is still alive in jail. And you didn't put him in jail, by the way, the man who kneeled on the black fellow's neck. I think he's come to the conclusion. And by the way, this is what Tariq Nasheed and them are rolling on. They're rolling on the idea that black folks don't take umbrage. They don't do nothing about nothing, right? How come no Caribbean person has decided, you know what? Let me deal with Tariq Nasheed when I see him in a Jamaican restaurant. No one does anything. And I think this guy is just saying to himself, you know what? You guys don't do nothing. You didn't do nothing when my father them stole your money. So why are you going to do something now?
There is and I understand what you're saying, Kuku. But Tariq Nasheed, for the most part, he's just talking on the internet. If I am in the country like Nigeria, and I know that his father indirectly or directly had something to do with the death of my parents, we in another country now. We in another country. It would be very dangerous for you to walk around with a false assumption that I ain't gonna put my hands on you. There's a YouTuber right now. I'm gonna tell you, you may not know. There's a Haitian. He's a Haitian YouTuber. He came from he left the Bahamas, and he started going on the internet talking crazy about the Bahamian government. Crazy. I mean, saying things that you wouldn't usually say. Don't you know that he was shot on camera when he was going live or whatever? People have arms longer than some of these people have assumptions that they don't have the ability to reach them. You know, he was shot on camera. And he's still talking shit now, but I mean, she was shot live on camera. Who do it? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. He was able to live. But some of these people walking around with a false assumption and belief that their hands can't stretch across seas and across territories and reach them. That is a bad assumption to me. I'm not saying that black people are not lazy. That's the wrong word. That they haven't done certain things, but there are many black people who have. There are many black people. I gotta tell you, brother, and I wouldn't. Why would I want to harm Tariq Nasheed? What? Because he's talking crazy? Hey, if they want to harm Tariq, my life is more valuable than some middle-aged person on the internet talking crazy about Caribbean people and immigrants. He don't have to do that. There are people who's doing that before Tariq Nasheed. He's just a toxic individual spreading lies and rumors and gossip. My life is not gonna change anyway by him saying horrible things about Caribbean and African people or saying good things. He don't control my existence. But I'm talking about people who have directly affected and touched the lives of people. And the Jews have done it. There are some Jews who've met Nazis in the United States of America, and they remember what the Nazis would have done in Germany. And some of them take them out right away. Some of them, and some of these guys are very old people. I think it's very dangerous to believe and walk around with an assumption that he can't be touched. And I don't think that he should do that. I think that that's a bad thing to do. I really believe that. I really think that's to walk around with the false assumption that no one could touch him. That's a bad belief. That's a bad belief. But like you say, you are absolutely right. George Zimmerman is still walking around, and I think that if I was George Zimmerman's father, he would have to always look over his shoulder, because there are no laws in the United States. No laws in the United States, and I shouldn't be saying these things, but there are no laws in the United States that would stop me from doing what I have to do to George Zimmerman. I am sorry. I'll go to jail forever with a smile on my face. But some brothers think like that. Not everyone thinks like that. Somebody say, well, we can give it to the Lord in prayer. Some brothers think like that. Not everyone thinks like that, brother. And to think like that, to believe that not every black person will respond, or all black people going to respond in the same way, is a very dangerous and careless belief.
Let me say
Can I?
this.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Let me just say this quickly then. Basically, that's the risk aversion we're talking about, that you were talking about earlier. Where you're saying you wouldn't say this because that's the risk aversion. Now, of course, I understand being tactical and looking out for yourself, but it follows the theme of what his belief is, which is these motherfuckers ain't shit. That's what he's saying. He's like, y'all not on that time. Your daddy wasn't on that time. You're not on that time. And that's what it is. And at the same time, he's also bringing the same energy that his father brought, which is, I'm about it. And that's the thing. That's the attitude that black people have to come around. Now, this is one thing I regret about not putting in one of my books, which is, I started reading Musashi, and Musashi was saying, hey, look, if you really want to be a man, you got to stop fearing death. You got to stop fearing death. And yeah, and then I think Cheryl said in the chat something about the CIA come after you if you start talking shit. It's like, let the CIA come then. Like because the thing is that we are getting so many mixed messages, so much deception, so much miseducation, so much whatever. We're not saying shit. We're scared. And a lot of us are being motivated by fear. Wanda's whole story about the guy who was talking shit and he got shot on camera. Yeah, you can't live in fear. If you want to live in fear of death, you're not living. You're not being a man. You're not living. And so he's saying, look, man, the problem with Nigerians is y'all don't do the shit when it's time to do the shit. Okay? And when Koku brings up the example of George Zimmerman, and Buana says, oh, George Zimmerman's father should be looking over his back. George Zimmerman's father does not look over his back. George Zimmerman goes out in public and signs Skittle bags. He's signing Skittle bags because because Trayvon Martin was walking around with Skittles in his pocket. This was 20-something years ago. When we're talking about ancient history, this was 20-something years ago. This man is mocking the death of a black boy he shot and beat and killed in front of on his way home from school or wherever he was coming from. And he's mocking the boy in his death, and he's still going at it. They're not afraid of you. White folk, black folk, nobody afraid of the little fish because the little fish act like little, that's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to take too long. I know Cheryl want to say something. Sorry.
No, yeah, like I'm totally on board with that, like what you just said. But I think the point, Buana, that he's trying to stress, and I know there's always going to be a chance for somebody, to get popped. I mean, being black, it's always going to be that chance. But his point is that he's calling people out. He's calling Nigerians out because I know a lot of people don't have like Instagram or whatever, but there are a lot of Nigerians like talking about, come on, Big Daddy Trump, come get rid of these radical groups in Nigeria. It's like, when I tell you it's bad, it's pretty bad. And that doesn't mean that there's not Nigerians who are about that revolution, but it's overwhelmingly a lot of Nigerians that the only thing they want to do is church. That's all they want to do. And to them, Trump is the coming of Jesus. I'll tell you that right now. And so that's why I say I understand his frustration and where he's coming from. Could he be a little less emotional? Sure, why not? But I mean, he's saying, where's your fighting spirit? Where is your fight back? You're in an all black country. It's not like America where it, you know, there's your proximity to white people. You don't have barely any proximity to white people. Most Nigerians, when they come to the United States, what's the first thing they say? Oh, well, this is the first time I've ever seen white people. Y'all don't have to worry about that. So that's why you say, if I said it in the chat, if there's going to be any revolution, it's not going to be in America. Don't matter how hard we fight back. There's a lot of black people. You got Micah X. Johnson. That man went on a sniper fest and he was shooting these police. Boom, 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 left and right. But revolution, we have the revolution spirit. A lot of people here, because black people, you see black people in the United States, they'll say fuck that cracker ass cracker in a minute, right? And people coming from the continent, they'll clutch their pearls because for them, white people are God, and they're not afraid to admit it. They'll say, "Oh, white, this is my white daddy, white Jesus." They're not scared to admit it. But if you live in a country, his frustrations are definitely justified because you live in an all black country. You have no excuse except for the fact that that's the effects of Christianity. But revolution, regardless of the effects of Christianity or any other religion, revolution will never happen in the United States. It's just not going to happen. We can take our asses out of America because it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But so yeah, he's just calling people out, and shoot, we call people out all the time. So what?
But in Nigeria, right? Nigeria, if you look at from colonialism, Nigeria had at least like 10, 15 different coups in changing of the leadership. Sani Abacha, the guy they mentioned, who he said that it was his godfather. The man was a terrorist. You know how much people he killed to get in power? And after him, you have Obasanjo killed many people. Obasanjo threw Femi Kuti's mother out of a window, and killing her. I mean, it's an extremely brutal society. I think that they did have many, many coups inside of Nigeria, but for a small person, for a person who don't have if you're not in the military, this is the way a lot of them achieve power. By the way, if you're not in the military or a high-ranking person in the military, how do you defeat an army? How do you go up against an army with rocks and stones? I mean, Even if you protest the government, they're gonna just have their kangaroo courts, lock you up in their prisons forever, or until one of them die or decide to let you. It works different. See, in the United States of America, you have checks and balances. You have certain checks and balances. I'm not saying it's perfect, but in places like these kinds of countries, the checks and balances don't exist. The rule of law is the best money you can pay for. Some of these judges, you know what I mean? You really have to take it to these people with guns and arms and ammunition. And if you don't have the ability to fight power against power, you are gonna fight a losing battle. You're not gonna win. You're not gonna win. You know, it's just what I have to be honest. I have to be honest. Even if me one was to influence a mass amount of the human people to change the state of affairs here, it's just a different scenario, Ahmad. That's all I'm saying. It's a little bit different on the ground when it comes to these kinds of places. It works a little bit different. That's all I'm saying. And then you have the U.S. and you have the Israelis and you have the British. They arm people who have their best interests. Some of these scumbags. They arming them. They sending them weapons, military, and all these kinds of things. If you don't have the money to put up to some kind of defense, to to defeat people who are actively trying to oppress you, you are fighting a losing battle. You are fighting a losing because it takes money. It takes money to build up any kind of revolution and some sort of defense. If you don't have that, you are lost. In the United States of America, for instance, you had a ragtag group of people called the Founding Fathers. If they didn't have France as a financial backer to provide weapons, utility, and arms, they would have never defeated the British. You wouldn't have America wouldn't have existed. They would have got wiped out by the British. So all I'm saying is that in these kinds of places, you have to have the ability, financing, and the tangible ability to build up some sort of defense. Even if you have the will to do it, even if you have the will to fight, you can't fight with rocks and stones. You can't do that. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
So, Buana, do we just not do anything? I think this comes back to that point again. Are we just going to remain small fish?
These people got guns.
Some people have decided. Some people have decided to what they say. What do we say? Some people have decided to flee the situation. Some people have decided to leave and flee the situation. Unfortunately, some people have decided to quote unquote stay here and fight. But their fight is different. Their fight is trying to improve the lives of people on an individual level, because on even if you try to improve it on a nationalistic level, there gonna be so many. Listen, brother, the government feeds so many people who are in high places, but they are extremely incompetent. But they don't have the power to remove these people. So you have to fight where you are. You have to try to improve the lives of yourself, your children, people who you could immediately affect the lives of. But on a nationalistic level, it's extremely hard unless you have the backing and the financing to remove people from power, bro. It is what I trying to be practical in what I'm saying, because I understand the will and the mindset of Black people want to be free and just and all these things, but there are some practical realities that you really have to talk about in dialogue, and
So,
that's
Buana,
that's where I'm going.
So, Buana, do we just give up now and seek our individual prosperity, or do we? Because, see, my thing is this. Then why are we talking about it? If it's just the case that, you know what, it's too much, right? I thought about this today, as a matter of fact. I'm like, wow, but we really let these white folks get ahead on us big time, because they got the military, they got technology against us. How are we going to get through this? Are you saying here tonight, well, we just got to, it is what it is. Let's just cozy down in our situation. That's what I'm hearing. Is it? And again, Boy, I'm not coming for you or anything like that, but I want to be very careful about the message that we put out here for young folks to hear. that is just too much to overcome. That's what I'm getting from what.
What I have no, you could Coco, we could we talking as man. You could be as blunt and honest as possible. I don't have sensualists like the rest of the brothers. You know, you could be as practical and plain to me. What I have seen, I look at the examples of small minorities who have still been successful in certain things. For instance, what the Jews have done in the United States of America is they have effectively taken over the banking system. They have taken over the media reality. So they are able to shape the United States in a form and fashion that ultimately at the end of the day, that's how they gain out the power in America, even though they represent such a small minority of people in the United States. So there are also people like in America also there are corporations who become so powerful like in the United States of America that they are able to dictate policy to the so-called movers and shakers in Washington. You know, that's another kind of strategy. So I mean, like Shirley says, you have to think your way out of the situation, because brute force, like how we talking about, is not sufficient. It won't do it. It won't do it. And the cleverness of the small minority of Jewish people inside of America is the fact that they was able to take over the banking system in America and the media in America, that you can't even say certain things on YouTube now without people being very, very careful. That, for me, that's a thinking group of people. You know what I mean? So my thing is to create that atmosphere, because we are not there yet. To create that kind of atmosphere where you have thinking people who ain't just following. You know, there have to be thinkers who are able to challenge things outside of the box. Only, for instance, only right now has decided not to be an average regular person on the street. I don't know how you get to that point, but he's thinking outside of the box. And just in doing that itself, if you could create a bunch of people who think along those lines, then you're going to be competitive. You're going to be able to change and move kind of things around. You know what I mean? It's like you have to produce generations of people to do these kinds of things. For the most part right now, many of us are just, let me say bottom dwellers, but just we thinking in a very average sort of way. Buy the click on the weekends, buy the conch snack on the weekends. We ain't trying to take over the shit. You know what I mean? But you have to produce thinkers who thinking on that kind of level. Because many of us have not been taught about power, about control, about taking over. Many of us have not been bred like that. Many of us. You have to produce these kinds of people. And I say the thinkers could do it. The people, I am in a position where I don't have that kind of power, but I bet you I could produce the thinking people to help to progress this shit along, to one day see this reality come to fruition. I am not, me one can't do it. I have to create generations of people who think like that.
But Buana, how will the generations come about if you don't talk about it?
We talking about it too. We have a base of 150 to 200 people right now. I don't know what reality I affecting and what I'm saying. This is the reason why I'm very careful in the things that I say, and I don't engage in certain kinds of conversations, because I don't know who the hell I inspiring. I really don't know, but I putting it out there. Every week. I putting it out there. You know what I mean? And I do it in my own community too. When I was teaching the ninth graders and the seventh graders, challenging them to think critically, because most of the Bahamian people who are right here, we learn off a rote. Whatever the teacher say, accept it and repeat it. You don't think like that in this world. You think critically, analyze what I'm saying, whether it's true or not. If I wrong, challenge what I'm saying, because you have to break this idea of, oh, he's older, so you have to give him deference. No, if I'm older and I'm saying horse shit, say Buana, I don't, as a child, I'm ninth and seventh grader, I don't think so. And here's the reason why. And we get into these kinds of dialogues and discussion. You have to change the mindset of the young people. So when they become older, they'll be like, no, the prime minister talking horse shit. And here's why. I am trying to produce these kinds of people. You know what I mean? I personally am, but I'll leave it.
Yeah, there's an argument that this brother that we just watching the video is trying to produce those kinds of people too, by the way. In the meantime, let's welcome in Brother Bakari. Brother Bakari, how are you this week?
What's going on? What's going on, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Hey, first, I want to say, when Bawana say, "How do the Jews do what they do?" Man, them just white people working together.
Exactly.
We'll give a small group of people so much credit and put ourselves down. There's a bunch of white people just working together. The Jews ain't nothing but white people.
And
They
by the
just
way,
white.
Bakari, sorry to cut you, but real quick, Jews also hid their identity too. That's to
Yeah,
tell you that they were white people. They changed their name from Goldstein to Gold and all that type of shit. But Bakari, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. That's all because they came in. You can see them. They did that here in Hollywood because you can't tell them apart. So they found something. I can't say they found something they was good at, and they stuck with it. But that is something they've been doing for a very, very long time. Now, I imagine this conversation because I've been in and out because I've been out with my lady, but came about what the dude from Nigeria was saying, right? And what I say about that is, man, I put in the chat the little bit of time I had to speak. Man, we have turned curve. We are not looking to fight back. We don't even want to really talk about fighting back. We want to now we will talk about fighting each other. If you hear us talking about doing something to one another, for the most part, that conversation is never going to be halted. Ain't nobody going to intervene and say we shouldn't be saying that, right? But if we're talking about other people, it's going to be like we shouldn't talk that. We are very careful when we are very careful the way we speak. Now, me, for the most part, I'm kind of like a little bit tired of just talking. It's time to it's time to do something other than just talk. But you do have to be, in order to teach, you have to talk. You have to talk to the youth. But when it's a way as black men that we have to start. It's a way as black men that we have to start doing things how we have to want to handle business. For the most part, we don't even want to handle. We don't want to handle altercations with other people. We can talk about them. We can crack good jokes about them, but we don't truly want to handle real life situations dealing with other people. And what that guy said is the same thing that you can say here. You can say it about any African nation, anywhere in South America where everybody's talking about go and it'll be so great for black people. If it's so great for black people there, why the black people from damn South America, damn dirt poor, just like the black people here? My point is, don't care where we are, if we don't stand up, and make a change, you ain't got to say it out loud to everybody. You just have to start doing it. If we don't stand up and we don't make a change, it's gonna be people like that guy who was talking from Nigeria. My family stole all this from you, and now we filthy rich, and I'm gonna have an inheritance, and y'all didn't do shit. They can say it here, even though the situations are slightly different. Slightly. Don't care where we are. When you look at us, we have not done shit. We can talk. Can't nobody beat us talking like we can whoop the world. But when it come time to doing it, y'all remember the NFAC? All these people on social media just talk. What did they do? They made sure they did everything in their power to try and disgrace or beat that brother down because they didn't want nobody, but he gonna get people killed. We are not trying to fight. We just want to talk. We want to get on social media and scam black people out of money. How you the mic?
Anyone want to comment to what Brother Bakari came in and said?
Yeah, brother Bakari. Okay, go ahead, Amma, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, brother Bakari have his way of fighting, and that's what he believes to be true, and that's what he believed in, ultimately winning the battle between in his mind and what he's trying to win. And there are other fights that is very contentious for Black people as well, that we also have to wage. And what I'm saying is most Black men won't die from a gun battle between a white supremacist and a Black person. Most Black men gonna die from high blood pressure or heart disease. So their battle is what they putting in their mouths every day. So I'm thinking that maybe Black men should get together and own their own farms so they could feed their people without having steroids in their food, so they won't have to pass on and when they turn 60. I'm saying that that is a fight as well, and warriors need to take up that task. And I'm saying that there is food security issues, there is education. We in the technological world right now. I'm saying that our people should be investigating as coming from the analog world into the technological world. You know, now we in a knowledge-based economy, and many of our people are going to be shut out because they don't have the knowledge and the requisite skills to compete in this world. After we done wage the revolutionary war, we have to set up the economy and the system to feed, clothe, and shelter and provide resources for the people. This is another kind of fight. This is another kind of fight. To me, there's a more important fight. Because hey man, you could decide to live off of the grid and away from white people, but how are you going to structure that society? How are you going to ensure that the children are fed every day? How are you going to ensure that they getting medically treated well every day? These are some of my concerns. They may not be his, but they are my concerns, because I understand that most Black men will die from high blood pressure and diabetes and being over. We have an overweight epidemic in our community that no one talks about. That's a war in itself, because we have to, we fight every day. We fighting every day, whether to buy Popeye's chicken or some lettuce, spinach, and tomatoes to live longer. Like I say, our fights are different, just a little bit different. And these are my battles. These are my, because I don't have a white supremacist. Maybe I do. Maybe the white supremacist is KFC and Colonel Sanders. He is in my face every day when I pass his establishment, and I won't go in there and I have to fight whether I can decide to eat that or I can decide to eat something that's healthy and it can make me live on this planet longer. That's my battle with the white supremacists. Whether I should smoke a cigar or whether I should drink water instead. So I think that we should pick our battles. And if Brother Bakari's battle is that, whether to arm himself with a proper weapon to do what he needs to do, that's his battle. That's just right now. It's not my battle. That's not the war that I wage in. The war that I wage in is to live long on this planet in my right mind, and not let high blood pressure and high blood pressure kill me. 180 over 120 kill me before I reach a certain age.
I'm gonna respond right quick, then Cheryl, you can go. But Juana, I never said none of that was the fight. The only thing I said was when we talk about defending ourselves against other people. A lot of Black men don't want to hear that. I never said we shouldn't talk about exercising, being in shape, and eating well. Because war ain't just guns and bullets. War is not just guns and bullets. I know that. People on here know that. But if we talk about, if we gonna have to fight, we can't always run away from we gonna have to fight. That's my point. Go ahead, Cheryl. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's cool. Yeah, I was just thinking about, like, so with Nigeria, like with the weapons, and how Nigeria has a very strong, I guess, military. I guess that's the argument. So I mean, they do have a strong military. They do have a lot of weapons, but Nigerians, it's not that they don't have access to weapons and guns. It's not the reason why they can't fight back the government. It's because you have too many of them that have already adopted and have been comfortable um, with Western values. And so that's why when people say, oh, well, Trump says he's going to protect Christians, Nigerians take that at face value because they say, well, I'm a Christian and my government is supported by the US, so we're going to be fine. But it's those extremist groups that are going to have a problem. So it's a mind. It starts with the mindset. And so what I would challenge not just you, Buana, but everybody to do is just like I was saying in the chat, like we need to brainstorm ways that we can. I think someone was saying this in the beginning too, getting rid of all the ethnic divisions and the religious doctrine that's on the continent. So what I'm thinking about is, how did Traore start? Like, how did he do it? And we have a lot of Nigerians that live in the United States who, yeah, they may be Christian, sure, but they have had what Nigerians on the continent haven't largely had. They have access to different types of Black people who think differently. They get a wider perspective of Blackness and what it means to be Black, being outside of the United States. So some of them are going to be Christian no matter what. Okay, we can leave them, but some of them are starting to understand that, at the core of all of this corruption in Nigeria is Christianity, is Islam. So if we could get a good amount, and this is just me brainstorming, but if we could get a good amount of Nigerian people who live abroad, not just the United States, Canada, UK, whatever, to assist in this fight back. And I'm not saying this is something going to happen overnight, because you're going to need to re-educate, Nigerians, because we're just talking about Nigeria right now. We're going to need to re-educate Nigerians, and and their children. So if Nigerians have children in the United States, they need to be brought up not under Christianity, or we need to be moving towards something else that's going to foster. They need to be moving not towards something else, but back to their own cultural systems, and that will give us the knowledge and the wherewithal to become structured in order to fight back against a government to begin with. It's not something that happens overnight. And the Nigerian government is strong. Don't get me wrong; they got a lot of power, but they're extremely disjointed. So I don't think it's impossible, but I think it takes planning. It does take structure. But I think Nigeria has a very unique position because there's so many of them in the United States. So can you imagine if, like, I'm just throwing things out there. If somebody got something to add, like if Nigerians like in the United States became influenced by, the movements that we've had here in the United States, and they just decide, I'm not going to teach my child this. I'm going to teach them their native languages. They're not going to do Christianity. They're not going to do Islam. And eventually we're going to go back and we're going to do this. We're going to set up systems. And maybe, Nigeria is close to, what's it, Niger, Chad, all those areas where Traore is. There are so many possibilities that can be done in the next, let's say, 3 to 4 generations. There's so many things that we can change. And it starts with our mindset. So I wouldn't have I'm not saying you have a give up mentality. I don't think you're giving up, but you're just stating that it's difficult. And we know it's difficult, but I think that's why we need to brainstorm. So I'll just leave it there.
I'm gonna say something right quick before I start. Let me say it right quick. Let's speak now, because we talking about revolution and all that. My honest opinion, we fight here to survive, to live, I guess. But our real revolution is Africa, and that's the African Americans. Our real revolution is taking over what's rightfully ours. So these crooks can stop, because they're not just selling out Nigerians. The ones in Cameroon not just selling out Cameroonians, and so on and so forth. They're selling out all of us into that diaspora as well, because they sit back and they don't care because they have money and they're okay. That's what my opinion, real revolution is on the continent, on the mother continent of Africa. I wanted to say that now. Yeah, the mic. And sure, you were saying some things I agree with, by the way. You're right. We do need to come up with some ideas, but get us a WhatsApp group and come up with some ideas where it can be encrypted. But I do agree.
Oh, I guess Oni didn't have anything to add. I was gonna have Oni speak. I stepped away for a second, but that's all good.
Oh, no, I'm here. I have nothing else to say.
Okay. If there's no last thoughts on the topic, which was a really good conversation, by the way. I like, before you guys step up the panel, I like you guys to give your shout outs for the week. Anything positive that happened to you, something you saw in the black world at large. What would you like to shout out today? Let me start with Sister Cheryl, I guess.
I would just say shout out to, it's been a continuing effort, but like the things that Troy is doing, I think he has the right mindset. And I think if other neighboring countries, hint, or maybe not their governments, but the people would follow suit, you could see a bigger movement. And so I just want to say shout out to Traore, because his influence it means a lot.
Appreciate that, Sister Cheryl. Let me hear from Brother Bakari next. Brother Bakari, what would you like to shout out? Okay, yes, Bakari left already. Only, what would you like to shout out this week?
Just shouting out my own surviving. No, it's all good.
Go to sleep, man.
What do you mean go to sleep? Oh yeah, no, I'm just saying I'm surviving. But all right, but yeah, other than that, yeah, nice podcast. Thanks for letting me on. It is kind of late though. I ain't gonna hold you. It is 7 a.m. and I didn't know that when I wasn't here. Well, I guess I did watch when Barnabas taking over my rant, so you know. No, but I appreciate being here. It is. I didn't know Daylight Savings was gonna kick my ass, but thanks everybody for having me, and yeah, cheers.
Thanks for coming through, Oni. We look forward to hearing
I'm
more
here.
about
I'm here,
your...
Coco. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm here. My bad. I had stepped away. I could hear you calling me, but I was nowhere near my thing to take it off mute. But
All
go
right,
ahead and say, I just wanted to let you know I was here.
All right, no, well, I'm coming to you next. So I just want to say shout out to Oni. Hopefully we'll hear and see more of your exploits in the continent. Brother Bakari, what would you like to shout out this week?
Everybody on the panel, shout out to especially you for hosting every week, hosting every Saturday. I hope you get up to 2 days a week, but hey, and shout out to Traore and any other black people trying to and want to do the right things, and shout out, and support black businesses before I get off here. Let's learn to support one another wholeheartedly. On that, yield the mic. Thank you, Koku. Thank y'all for letting me come on here and speak, coming in real late.
That's all good. Thanks for that. Thanks for the calls during the week too. So shout out to Brother Bakari for giving me a call during the week and chopping it up sometimes. With that said, Buana, what would you like to shout out?
So first, let me start it like this. Only I rarely rant, brother. You know what I mean? Because it's so congested with the paddle. I don't have an opportunity to rant. So leave me to my rants. I gotta rant sometime. But shout out to Jamaica. There's not a lot of follow up in the Western media in terms of what's happening in Jamaica. But I saw a video where the Jamaican people, and not only Jamaican people, Caribbean people too. One was in Brooklyn. This guy showed a photo in Brooklyn where there were barrels. The barrels were so long and extensive. The people who came out to actually try to help and assist in actually sending food and different supplies to Jamaica right now because they were building. It was heartwarming, man. It was so many barrels. You know, people in this were there in Canada. I guess the center where they was having foodstuffs and supplies going to Jamaica. It was so many people inside there, and it was crowded. Even in the UK, you know, they really putting up a very good effort in assisting that country. And if you if you never saw Pan-Africanism at work, and it's because it's not only Jamaican people. You know, there are people all over the Black world who are actually trying to assist in the rebuilding of that country right now. Shout out to Shaggy. Shaggy, he bought many kind of Starlink. I don't like that, but at least people are able to communicate to their family members in different parts of the world from Jamaica now because of Shaggy efforts and the monies that he is pouring into different smaller communities there. So shout out to Shaggy for doing that. Also for Raw and Icon Fire. I don't know. Can you point me to a specific agency or place where I can either send goods or any kind of donation to make sure and ensure the people of Jamaica get at least whatever help I could do? You know, and I don't know how the government, the embassy, the Jamaican embassy, I don't know how they are taking goods or whatever. But if you could direct me to somewhere within the Caribbean where they actively trying to do things in different Caribbean countries, that'd be greatly appreciated because I want to know how I could be of assistance as well and sending kind of, you know, whatever I could send there as well. So, you know, Icon and Raw who listen, you know, could you all assist me with it? Assist me with it. But the people in the world have love for Jamaica. Shout out to the Jamaicans for rebuilding. Like I say, I've been in several different categories for hurricanes, and I know what that's about. I know especially the after effects, and it's not really being talked about in the Western media because they don't never see no follow through. You know, they ever talk about no follow through. But shout out for the Black world and their efforts in trying to assist and aid and trying to rebuild after that such a horrible situation happening in Jamaica. I'll leave it there.
Buana, I appreciate that shout out. But before I go to mine, Buana, last week you celebrated a birthday, if I remember correctly, right? How did that go?
Yeah, Coco. To be honest with you, it's a crazy thing because I didn't drink so much. You know, I take it easy. I took it easy. You know, I enjoy my time. You know, I had a little wine. I didn't overdo it. I didn't know when you're getting older.
They must run out of rum. You didn't drink that much. Did they run out of rum?
Yeah. I have a whole bottle. I have a whole bottle of rum right now, and I took a shot tonight. That's it. I didn't overdo it. When you get older, maybe it's.
Happy belated birthday, my brother.
I appreciate that, man, but I don't know. I didn't overdo it, Coco. And Bakari, man, I just took it easy. I didn't overdo it at all. Not this time. But thank you for asking, though.
Coco,
Yeah.
No problem.
the
Yes,
Bahamas, the Pirates' Paradise, have run out of rum. Y'all are low on rum, man. Botswana didn't have, y'all are low on rum, man. Oh man, I didn't think the Pirates Paradise would ever run out of rum. Botswana drunk it all.
I appreciate that, man. My shout out to all of you guys, of course, in the chat, on the panel, in the playback as well. But I posted this earlier today, and this is what Cheryl was talking about, brainstorming. Last week we had a discussion. Bono wasn't here. Bakari was here. And I talked about, we may have to go back to like the email style of getting information out. Clearly the algorithms won't help us. So I'm trying to build a direct email list for the podcast. And there's a couple of additional things I'm trying to put in there. A quick Pan-African news briefing, of course, the live stream link, highlight clips from the last episode, and a question or insight for the week. Probably something from Gavi, some Gavias I'll add. And all I need you guys to do is join the Discord. I'm going to set up a channel. You can post your email address. It'll sign you up for the MailChimp distribution of emails. And I think, but the important thing for this to make any sense is you have to share emails. I remember there was a time in consciousness, just a few years ago actually, when you would see people build these email lists and have these Google Drives with books and PDFs. I think Oni was one of those people. I kind of did it a little bit as well. But I think we got to get back to that if we want these conversations to really proliferate. Like I said, YouTube is not gonna help. I played that video last week. There's another video I'm gonna play in a week or two that just shows you that the game is rigged when it comes to these type of grassroots movements. So I'm gonna set that up. You'll get more information. But that's my shout out. Shout out to brainstorming. Hopefully you guys will participate in it. But until then, Afro Native World says, by the way, I posted a Nana Amos Wilson library on the Discord. I didn't see that. I'll look for it and I'll highlight it. I'll add everyone. By the way, Buana, Cheryl says, I guess they donated to every Mikkel Foundation. So you can look into that.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. So with that said, man, we should be back next week. I hope you guys will be there with us. Until then, you guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.